2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the place where you're not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of a snowy 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on into what is another week and a busy Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. And you could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. We have a whole lot to do today. We'll take you all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Manti Te'o is going to stop by at 4:40 p.m. Eastern time today. James Palmer does a great job. Bleacher Report NFL Insider. He's going to join us at 5:20 p.m. Eastern time. You know, you never know how you're going to start a show when the regular season does come to a close. There could be some great reaction to a game that played out where a team is in the postseason, another team now is going golfing or going to Cancun. But usually, I would say 9 times out of 10, when you open up after the final regular season week and the final regular season football Sunday in the NFL, usually there is a coaching discussion or a GM discussion, someone that ended up getting fired. And we know by now, right, for the last few months, last few weeks, the Bears were open. The Saints were open. and the Jets were open. So the question then becomes, who was going to join those three teams in looking for a new head football coach in 2025? Well, we got some answers. And then there are a few teams that we still don't know. We haven't heard any official word. The Giants, we found out that Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen are coming back. The Indianapolis Colts, I never thought Shane Steichen was really going to get fired. Maybe a surprise firing, but I wasn't anticipating it. I thought Chris Ballard would be gone with this 62, 69-1 record and never winning a AFC South championship during his tenure as the GM of the Colts. But Jim Irsay follows up the saying of incompetent organizations make incompetent decisions, as he announced immediately after their game that, hey, Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen are coming on back. The Raiders, they're allowing Antonio Pierce to just finish up a press conference, and in typical Raiders fashion, we don't know if Antonio Pierce is going to be coming back or not as the head coach. It's tough to assume with the Raiders because when you assume, you usually make an ass out of you and me, but pretty much the Raiders always make an ass out of you and me, and also one of my producer extraordinaires in Stu Kovacs, who is a diehard Raiders fan. I'm going to guess, I'm going to assume, and nothing would shock me here, because, right, the Bears allowed Matt Eberflus right after Thanksgiving to do his press conference. Then if you recall, I was at the gym. I send out a text message on my hour elliptical ride, or a tweet, I should say. It's crazy that we're still sitting here and Matt Eberflus is the head coach. I press send, and then a minute later, it was almost they were just waiting for my tweet to go out. Snap of a finger, boom, press conference over. Then right after the press conference, Matt Eberflus, or as I like to call him, Matt Eberflus, got sent packing as the head football coach of the Bears. So for now, Antonio Pierce is safe. I'm going to think he is back. But until we hear a actual statement or read a statement or get some word from Mark Davis, I think that you're sitting on pins and needles a little bit if you are Antonio Pierce. But we do have two decisions where you've seen two head football coaches already dismissed. Earlier this morning, to no surprise, I was actually surprised he made it the entire season. I think it's because they just respect that he's won a Super Bowl before in this league, and the man that he is, that Doug Peterson is no longer the head football coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I don't love that they're bringing back Trent Baalke, but that's what the Jaguars do. It always seems like they half-ass it, and even when you think they're getting it right, they find a way to get it wrong. But we'll circle back in on the Jaguars coming up later. Here's the one where if you would have told me this 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have said I didn't think Robert Kraft would have done it. But yesterday, when I was on Sunday Morning Football right here on the Infinity Sports Network in football season, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern, hosted by yours truly, and Chris Mortensen, the late, great Chris Mortensen for years, he did this segment like, are you leaning towards in or out? And when you look at Jerod Mayo, and Adam Schefter was doing this segment to honor his pal, Chris Mortensen, he said that he's leaning that Jerod Mayo is out. Now, there was a lot of local speculation this past week in New England, in Boston, that Jerod Mayo isn't safe. But it's one thing when the local radio host or the local reporter says it, and we all look at that, even though there's a lot of good radio hosts in Boston, and there's a lot of good people that cover the team on a daily basis in Boston with the Patriots, where you need the affirmation and you need the tweet or the conversation from the national names, in an Adam Schefter, a Ian Rappaport, a Jay Glazer, a Tom Pelissero, guys that habitually break big national news stories. And when Adam Schefter's on the ESPN yesterday, and he's saying that he's leaning that Jerod Mayo is out, I go, he's not coming back as the head football coach. He's going to be one and done. So we turn our attention to the actual game on Sunday. And this is what I thought I was going to be talking about initially, was I thought that I was going to get on the air and I was going to freak out. I was going to lose my mind. I was going to scream. I was going to yell about the Patriots, where I can't fault the players for trying, but how the organization allowed those players to beat the Buffalo Bills to get the number 1 overall pick. And even to not get the number 1 overall pick. And even with the start that the Patriots got off to, which was a good start, I still thought to myself, even with the Buffalo Bills playing Mitch Trubisky, and also playing Mike White after Josh Allen took one snap just to continue his consecutive start streak, there was always a part of me that thought, okay, the Bills would find a way to win the game just because the Patriots don't have that much talent. But then when Tyler Bass missed a PAT, which only had the Patriots down by 2, that's when I got very worried. And Joe Milton played a good game, but through the course of the game, as I'm sitting there on my couch and I'm saying, just lose the game, get the number 1 overall pick, not only to just draft the player number 1 overall, because I never thought the Patriots were actually going to keep that pick, but it was to move down a few spots in the draft, still get a very good player, but you acquire so many other resources and so many other future players because a team like the Browns or the Titans or the Raiders or the Giants, whoever looking to get a quarterback, you could pin those teams up against one another, and you could use that to your advantage to move that up the draft board. You know, to move your team up. Those guys go up, and then you go move down a few spots. You get a bunch of picks in future drafts to help build the foundation of a team to complement your young quarterback who I think is going to be a star in Drake May. So as I'm watching the game, and I'm rooting for my team to lose, and I'm rooting for my team to tank, anytime that Jerod Mayo was shown on the screen, he just looked sad. He looked as if he already knew, whether he was told or not, what his fate was. And the look was so apparent on his face that he goes, "Ma'am, I got to go coach in the NFL as a head coach. I got the camera on me, and the only reason why people are tuning in are for 2 reasons. 1, to see the Patriots lose, or 2, to just see what I look like on the sideline when Adam Schefter's on ESPN for the game." And even though he didn't definitively said it, he just believed that Jerod Mayo was on the way out of New England. Now, let me be clear. I don't think the Patriots, who ended up winning the game and falling down to the 4th pick, I don't think Robert Kraft or Jonathan Kraft went to Jerod Mayo before the game and said, "Hey, buddy, we're firing you after this game. This is your last game as a coach." Now, by the time he took to the podium afterwards, I don't know if they told him or not. I'm going to assume that they didn't, and they waited until after the press conference. But I think that Jerod Mayo isn't a dummy, even though he did some stupid things this year. But I think he knew what was happening, like I said, all throughout the game. So is that a way that Jerod Mayo sticks it to the Patriots? I guess. Does it really bother me so much, the draft pick? I'm not thrilled with it. You know, I do think it's lame that the 2 times that this Patriots team actually showed some good effort this year was after the coach called them soft, and then they beat the Jets, and then also they had to pin this war up against fans this past week when fans were just booing and chanting "Fire Jerod Mayo" because they weren't happy with the god-awful football team that at the time was 3 wins. And it'd be one thing if they had some talent on this roster. You know, it'd be one thing if Drake May was bitching. It'd be one thing if Christian Gonzalez was bitching. But when it's a bunch of players who are expendable that's bitching, the coach has to find a way to nip that in the bud. And Jerod Mayo didn't do that. And that was the biggest problem with Jerod Mayo. He was one of those guys who was a player's coach, right? Completely opposite of Bill Belichick, but he was a doormat. And you needed to bring an authoritative voice in that locker room. Not that he had it to be the disciplinarian that Bill Belichick is, but when there are tough times, you can't be embarrassing. Like, we all knew the Patriots are going to be bad this year, but they couldn't be embarrassing. And with Jerod Mayo as the head coach, they were sad, they were pathetic, and they were embarrassing. And if I'm being honest, I'm just relieved today because I like Jerod Mayo, right? Jerod Mayo played for the Patriots organization. Jerod Mayo isn't this legendary Patriot, but he was a good Patriot. He was a part, even though he got hurt, of a Super Bowl winning team, and he was a leader, right? He was a captain. He eventually joined the coaching staff, and he eventually became the head coach. But this was a gross miscalculation by Robert Kraft, who was all up in his feelings because Bill Belichick wasn't nice to him. And he got rid of arguably the greatest head football coach of all time, and he made a promise to Jerod Mayo to make him the head coach when Jerod wasn't ready. So even though the initial decision to make Jerod Mayo the head coach wasn't a good one by Robert Kraft, I will at least applaud him today because, right, when you win 6 Super Bowls, you may lack a hunger. At least he still has a hunger, and he was fed up with the football product that he saw the last few years. Some of it Bill's fault, and this year it was Jerod Mayo's fault. And there were no signs with a young quarterback there that Jerod Mayo was going to be the right guy to lead this franchise into the future. And also, I think it has to weigh on Robert Kraft when you had people like myself last year, or even a conversation that we had on this show with Christian Fourier, when we were talking about before the Patriots already guaranteed Jerod Mayo the job, who would be the next coach in New England. And there was a conversation, should it be Mike Vrabel or should it be Jerod Mayo? And at the time, I kept on saying, Mike Vrabel, Mike Vrabel, Mike Vrabel. And Christian Fourier even said it. He said, allow Mike Vrabel to be the head coach, because right now Jerod Mayo is hoping to be one day with the way that we view Mike Vrabel, right? So go get the known proven commodity. And some people that are like, oh, Mike Vrabel's getting too much praise in this hiring cycle. Mike Vrabel took the Tennessee Titans to an AFC championship game. He had them as a number 1 overall seed. And I know they had A.J. Brown. I know they had also Derrick Henry. But Ryan freaking Tannehill was his quarterback. So yes, I do believe Mike Vrabel, even though he hasn't won a Super Bowl as a head coach in this league, is going to be a really damn good coach. And let's also be real. Maybe Ben Johnson. I would think Ben Johnson's the only name that's going to seriously be under consideration for the Patriots to hire if Mike Vrabel, right, if they go, okay, we're not going to hire Vrabel. The only other name that I think it could possibly be is Ben Johnson. And supposedly Ben Johnson is interested in the job because the Patriots, even though the roster stinks, they have Drake May, and a lot of people think and view very highly of Drake May. But let's also call it what it is. Mike Vrabel did some good backdoor communication on this one, where he rushed to go take an interview with the New York Jets. He changed his Twitter profile picture to a photo of him playing alongside Teddy Bruschi in a Patriots uniform. What happened last week was Mike Vrabel, well, I'm not saying he would have never taken the Jet job. Like if the Patriots never opened up, yeah, I could see him taking the Jet job. But I really do think that Mike Vrabel put the full court press on the Patriots by going and talking to one of their rivals in the New York Jets. And Robert Kraft was probably sitting back there saying, man, Jerod Mayo's not looking like to be the guy. He's looking lost at the podium. The team stinks. And Mike Vrabel wants to be here. He wants to come home. He's in our Hall of Fame as a Patriots player. And now he's flirting with the Jets. So I do think that played a factor, even though Jerod Mayo wasn't good enough, to expedite Mayo getting ousted in New England. And I do fully expect that Mike Vrabel is going to be the next head football coach of the Patriots. But if he isn't, I think it's because Ben Johnson blows him away in this interview. And the Patriots have already reached out to Ben Johnson's camp and the Lions to request an interview. And maybe they end up saying, we'll go with Ben Johnson. But even with how attractive Ben Johnson could be with this offensive prowess, I think ultimately the Patriots are going to go with an experienced head coach, someone that understands the market. And yes, it ultimately has to work, but there's not some great high risk and some great unknown with Mike Vrabel. With Ben Johnson, even though he seems like he is a brainiac calling all these plays, how many times have we seen an innovative offensive mind not translate to a successful head coach in this league? So Jerod Mayo is out. Some people will say it's unfair. I don't think so. And I don't fault the Patriots whatsoever for getting rid of Jerod Mayo if and only if Mike Vrabel or Ben Johnson end up becoming the next head football coach. And ultimately, I do believe that, within a week or two, max, that Mike Vrabel is going to be the guy. Because Kraft is going into this, doing a legitimate search, which he didn't do last year. I do think that the guy that is basically first and goal on the 3-yard line is Mike Vrabel. But could someone chase him down and surpass Mike Vrabel? Yes, but the only horse that could do that is Ben Johnson. So ultimately, Mayo out, and I think Mike Vrabel will be in. How do you react to that as you look around the coaching carousel? Bears are now officially open. We know that for the last few weeks. Saints and Jets. And we've already seen some interviews getting requested or already being taken care of. And we know that the Jaguars have joined the party and the New England Patriots as well. Will the Raiders join the fun? If you want to say that this is fun, we'll have to wait and see. 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. By the way, I know we've already welcomed him to the Infinity Sports Network family, but today was the first Rich Eisen show on the Infinity Sports Network. Obviously, Rich needs no introduction to the sports media game, but now he's joining our team here at the Infinity Sports Network. So many of these same affiliates that you're listening to this great show right now, you could hear Rich Monday through Fridays right here on the Infinity Sports Network from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 to 12 out on the West Coast in Pacific Time. So welcome aboard Rich Eisen and his entire extravaganza. We'll take a break. When we come on back, I learned two things, or I had two prevailing thoughts from the Minnesota Vikings loss last night to the Detroit Lions. One has to do with Sam Darnold, and the other has to do with Jalen Hurts? Huh? Yep, we'll get into that when we return after these short messages.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Congratulations to the Detroit Lions. They are the NFC North champions, and they are the number one seed in the NFC. We already knew that the Chiefs were going to be the number one seed in the AFC. When you take a glance for Wild Card Weekend, which I guess they're not calling it Super Wild Card Weekend anymore, which I'm very happy about because I thought that was a super waste of time when it came to a marketing idea, and it did come to a marketing idea. But you know what I am perturbed about with the NFL? So a few weeks ago, it comes out that the schedule is going to be something along the lines on Saturday, where the last few years when they went to this dopey Super Wild Card Weekend, which is just Wild Card Weekend, where the format usually is you have a 4:30 game on Saturday, an 8 o'clock game on Saturday, and then Sunday was the triple header where it's 1, 4:30, and 8, and then you have that Monday night game. A few weeks ago, everywhere, out of nowhere, they said that, oh, it's actually a triple header on Saturday. And that Sunday would have been a doubleheader. I saw that, and then Monday with the isolated game. I saw that everywhere. And then you get Mike Tirico, Sunday Night Football, which usually they give the schedule out at halftime or after the Sunday Night Football game. But they gave it out at some point. I think it was in the second quarter. It may have been the first. They go, oh, when we come on back, we'll give you the Wild Card Weekend schedule. And they put the wild card schedule on the screen, and it says 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Chargers and Texans. Texans always get Saturday 4:30. Then Saturday night, Steelers Ravens at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then it said Sunday's the triple header, as it's always been, which they were telling you it wasn't going to be a few weeks ago, with the Broncos playing the Bills, the Packers playing the Eagles, Commanders, Buccaneers, and then Monday night is the Vikings and the Rams. So that's the schedule for Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday. Now, with all that being said, we look back at last night's Sunday Night Football game. What a dud that was. Now, it had all the makings to be this great classic matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. The winner gets the number one overall seed, 2 wins away from getting to the Super Bowl, and the road traveling through their backyard to get to New Orleans and get to the final game of the season for the Lions and Vikings to try to go win a Super Bowl. The loser, though, falls all the way to 5. And we know that the Vikings end up not only losing the game, but since the Rams weren't trying to with all the guys that they rested, they're now going to SoFi Stadium up against the Rams. The Rams fall to the 4 seed, and the Buccaneers, they move up to the 3 seed where they'll play the Commanders, who are the 6. So I look back at that Vikings-Lions game last night, which the game, in terms of the disparity, wasn't as great as what the final score did indicate. Like, that was a close game for a while, and then ultimately, when you keep on missing and messing up on opportunities, the Lions are just too good to be that stale on offense, and eventually they were going to step up, and they were going to connect, and they were going to make some plays. But it did feel like that the Vikings should have been up for the majority of the first half. And Kevin O'Connell, who is a very good coach in this league, and Kevin O'Connell, I was reading some report, I think it was from Jay Glazer, that his contract hasn't been extended yet, and there's a chance that he could get traded. I know Jay Glazer is one of the best reporters in the business. If the Minnesota Vikings, it's one thing to get rid of Sam Darnold at the end of the year, and we'll get to more in Sam in just a second. But if they're trading Kevin O'Connell at the end of the year, then what are the Vikings doing? And why, with what Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah have built, why the heck would Kevin O'Connell want out of the Minnesota Vikings? But there were 2 decisions in that game where it's 4th and short, right? You're within the 10 or 5 yard line, 4th and goal. And with points being at a premium at that point, you got to take the field goal, especially after the first time you did it and you didn't get it. and your quarterback was looking jittery, your quarterback was erratic, your quarterback was missing high, and then shortly after that, you said, no, we have all the confidence in Sam, we're going to go for it again. And I know there will be some people out there that will go, no, you always go for it. You always go for it. I don't think you always have to go for it. And you know me, I'm someone that I'm not going to second guess it. I thought that in the moment. Now, the first one, okay, I was fine with it. The second one, take the points for crying out loud. And those were 6 points that were left off the board, which at the time seemed as if they were going to determine who ended up winning and losing the game. But Sam Darnold last night, here are the two takes from the game as the Lions win and the Vikings end up falling all the way to the 5 seed. Sam Darnold, isn't it crazy what happens in a week? For most of the season, what has been the take on Sam Darnold? Just a tremendous redemption story. Unbelievable. Yes, he's a product of the system in Minnesota, but he's having a phenomenal season, ends up with 35 touchdowns, over 4,300 yards passing, and 12 interceptions, right? Like, what a story Sam Darnold has been. But Sam Darnold, for most of the year, the praise has been going to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Kevin O'Connell. But last week was the week that Sam Darnold got all of his praise. Beats the Packers, was surgical, is getting hoisted up in the locker room, right? The linemen are throwing Sam Darnold over their shoulders, and they're throwing water bottles and water, high-quality H2O, all over the locker room. And last week was the week where the general sentiment was that, hey, how can the Vikings, after seeing that image in the locker room, how can the Vikings get rid of Sam Darnold after this season? And for the majority of the season, I have said this. Sam Darnold's going to get a fat contract. He's going to get a lucrative deal. You know, is it going to be more than $35 million, like more than the Baker contract? Potentially. But last week, it seemed as if that price just went to a different level. And a lot of people last week, including I, when I saw what was going on in the locker room, and Kevin O'Connell smiles, goes, even though their plan is J.J. McCarthy, right? We had Ben Lieber on 2 weeks ago, and I said, I think they're going to get rid of Sam, and they're going to let him walk, and they're going to hand the baton over to J.J. McCarthy. And Ben agreed. And technically, he's on the Vikings payroll. He's a part of the Vikings radio network. But last week was the change of the tune, where it was, you can't get rid of Sam. And Sam gets a little praise. Sam gets thrown into a big signature marquee spot. The talk of Week 18, Vikings and Lions. Heck, I thought the Vikings were going to win the game last night because of their defense. I thought the offenses would be similar, but I thought the difference was the Vikings defense. And give credit to Aaron Glenn with the Lions. He was the best coordinator on the field last night. And that includes Brian Flores. That includes Ben Johnson. Aaron Glenn last night in that spot was the best coordinator. Especially, right, when you look at how talented the Vikings defense is, you look at how talented the Lions offense is, and the least talented unit out of those three is the Lions defense, and Aaron Glenn did the best coaching job last night. But Sam Darnold was erratic in the game. He was missing high, and O'Connell just kept on saying, throw the ball, throw the ball, throw the ball, throw the ball. And then when they finally ran the ball, they broke off a big run. They broke off a big run with Akers. But 18 of 41 for 166 yards, that's a moment last night where you sit back and you look at Sam Darnold and you say, Sam's had a tremendous season. But they just invested the 10th overall pick in the draft on J.J. McCarthy. And Sam Darnold, even though he did not play well last night, and he was horrible, it was an abysmal performance. Sam Darnold, in all likelihood, is still going to get paid a pretty penny this offseason, and he's going to get a lucrative deal. And barring some crazy run in the postseason, which the Vikings are still capable of going on a run, but it just got a lot more difficult when you're the 5th seed and you could have been the 1 seed and you would have been 2 games away with the bye, 2 games away from going to a Super Bowl. That road just got tougher. That road now has some turbulence. That road now has some speed bumps along the way. And could Sam get to a spot where he flushes what happened last night? I guess it's possible. Am I going to sit here and tell you that I fully expect it after how bad he was in the game up against the Lions? No, I'm not. He's had a marvelous regular season. But that was a rotten, ugly, nasty finish to the regular season for Sam Darnold that makes you have some flashbacks of the mono Sam Darnold, of the seeing ghost Sam Darnold as well. And even though he's in a much better spot now, in a much better place now, I do believe that the price is going to get too rich for the Vikings, where eventually Minnesota says, we're going to let you walk. We're going to invest and add other resources to this team and invest in other places. And we're going to trust that if we got you to be this good quarterback in this league, that we could do so with J.J. McCarthy. And a moment like that last night just adds more merit to the claim that Sam Darnold's going to be one and done in Minnesota and J.J. McCarthy's going to be the guy next season. That was not a good moment for Sam Darnold last night, especially after the week that he just had, where everyone is just giving him word after word after word of extolment and praise after praise after praise. And man, missing Addison, missing Hawkinson, missing Jefferson twice. He was god-awful in the game last night. Like, you could have lost that game and still played well, right? That's possible. But he was the number one reason why the Vikings didn't win that game last night. Because he could not hit Jefferson. He couldn't hit Hawkinson. He couldn't hit Addison. And early on, he didn't have it. And he never was able to recapture most of the magic that he's had this season. Once again, 18 of 41. 18 of 41. And he only had 166 yards passing. Now, that's one thought. The other thought that I had when I'm watching that game last night, and I know this is going to sound disrespectful, but it doesn't mean to be disrespectful. Like, I love what the Lions are doing. But if you look at the NFC, even with the Minnesota Vikings falling to 5, the 3 best teams still in the NFC, in whatever order you want, are the Detroit Lions, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Philadelphia Eagles. So you look at the Lions, even though the defense played really well last night, and they got Anzalone back, which is big for them, they've been decimated with injuries. And Dan Campbell's still a phenomenal coach, and we know the Lions still have a great chance to get to the Super Bowl. They got to win 2 games, and they're going to have the number 1 seed. But you then look at the Minnesota Vikings. Their defense is really good. Now we have a question, though, if Sam Darnold can get the job done in the big game. And I look at the Philadelphia Eagles. They're the most well-rounded team in the NFC. You have Saquon Barkley. You got A.J. Brown. You got Devontae Smith. You got a defense that keeps on getting better and better and better throughout the season under Vic Fangio. Sure, Nick Sirianni, I don't trust him. I trust Dan Campbell more. I trust Kevin O'Connell more. But you look at Jalen Hurts. I have seen him in a Super Bowl up against Kansas City. Even though they lost, he outperformed Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. He was the best player on the field going up against the great Kansas City Chiefs, even though they lost the game. And I'm watching last night, and I'm saying the Lions have Jared Goff, who's a good quarterback. But Jared Goff was a good quarterback that people didn't believe could win a Super Bowl with the Rams, even though he got to a Super Bowl with the Rams and had a terrible performance up against the Patriots. And Goff's done really well with the Lions, but he still got to go win that Super Bowl. And I look at the Minnesota Vikings last night, where it's, hey, Sam Darnold left you desiring a whole lot more. He was well below average last night. And you know what the superstar potential is of Jalen Hurts. I'm looking at the road. Eagles are the 2 seed. They play the Packers this weekend. And we'll see who they play after that. But if they win, right, you get another home game in the divisional round, and then you may have to go on the road to a conference championship game up against the Lions. Or if the Lions lose on divisional round weekend and you win, you then have the home conference championship game. But I'm looking at Jalen Hurts. I don't think there's a player under more pressure in the NFC than him. Because sure, you could talk about Darnold's contract. Sure, you could talk about Jared Goff getting the job done. If I would have told you before the season that the only people standing in the way of Jalen Hurts getting to the Super Bowl was Jared Goff and Sam Darnold, you take that. If Jalen Hurts is truly a franchise quarterback, he gets the Eagles back to the Super Bowl this year. He gets them back to the Super Bowl. Because you look at the most well-rounded team with the health, Eagles, Lions, Vikings. The Eagles right now are the most well-rounded team in the NFC. So those are my 2 thoughts on the game last night. I think Sam Darnold's going to be elsewhere next season, and there's a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We will get to a news brief next. Update time first. Here's the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
For now, Jalen Hurts remains in concussion protocol, and the Packers have some injury news as Christian Watson suffered a torn ACL and more. So not only will he miss the game against the Eagles Sunday, but perhaps the start of next year as well. Jordan Love should be good to go. Just one coach has been fired so far today, and that was Doug Peterson in Jacksonville. The former Super Bowl winner had an immediate impact leading the Jaguars to the playoffs in his first year, but after going 9-8 for the second straight year, they bottomed out this time around at 4-13. GM Trent Baalke stays on. The Giants are keeping their management team intact with GM Joe Schoen and head coach Brian Daboll, each getting another season to prove themselves. The Bengals stuck with Zach Taylor, but did make a big change with defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo out after 6 seasons. He had been a hot coaching candidate in years past. The Jets have already asked or interviewed several coaching candidates and asked permission to speak with Brian Flores and Josh McCown. The Bears have also asked to meet with Flores and Arthur Smith, who is also on the Jets list. And the Jets trying to get a GM too and are interviewing several candidates there. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, like us on Facebook. Our handle is INF Sportsnet. That's INF Sportsnet for our Facebook page. This is the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
It's time to ask the pros, where you, the listener, gets asked us a question. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the show. We might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. I just heard Axe say during the update that Jalen Hurts is still in the concussion protocol. And I know I just said, hey, Jalen Hurts, is there a quarterback under more pressure in the NFC than him? I don't anticipate anyone actually believes he's not going to play on Sunday up against the Packers. But that concussion that he sustained was on December 22nd. It's now January 6th. Now, here's the hot take of the day and the obvious statement of the day. I'm not a doctor, but that's a pretty damn long time to be in concussion protocol. I'm going to assume at some point this week he emerges out of it and he's going to end up playing. I would be stunned if he doesn't play, but something to monitor when he does officially clear concussion protocol, because you have to get approved, I believe, by an independent doctor in part of the many other boxes that you have to check off. So it's not like back in the day where the Eagles doctor just says to the coach, hey, he's good to go. Yeah, I'm getting a paycheck from you. Check. Good. No, you got to get a independent doctor, independent neurologist to approve you as well. All righty. Let's get to news brief. Here is Robert Kraft on the firing of Jerod Mayo.
This whole situation is on me. I feel terrible for Jerod because I put him in an untenable situation. I know that he has all the tools as a head coach to be successful in this league. He just needed more time before taking the job.
He needed more time before taking the job. Well, you promised him the job. So shouldn't you have found a way to just deal with whatever would have happened on breaking your promise to Jerod Mayo? I get it. You love Jerod Mayo. Kraft gets very close with his former players. And Mayo was in the organization, and Mayo said all the right things and gave him a warm, fuzzy relationship that he didn't have with Bill Belichick, even though Bill won him 6 Super Bowl championships. It was obvious last year that Mike Vrabel should have been the guy. And when Vrabel's now flirting with the Jets, come on, Robert Kraft. You know what you had to do, and you finally did it. You know, can Mayo go on to be a good coach one day? Yeah, potentially. Do I think he's anywhere close to that? Absolutely not. Even in a situation that was just brutal in terms of the lack of talent that he had in New England, but it got so embarrassing and it was obvious he wasn't ready. Courtesy of Fox Sports, here is Rob Gronkowski on the Patriots firing Jerod Mayo. This was the live reaction yesterday when the news did break, about 90 minutes after the Patriots did win, even though the game felt like a loss because they lost the number 1 overall pick.
I was shocked by that, and to happen that soon was a shocker to a lot of people. I think it was unfair to Coach Jerod Mayo. I mean, he had never had the chance to develop as a head coach. He was just a rookie himself in that department. And if you judge a coach by their first year, that's really not appropriate. I mean, Jimmy Johnson, you went 1-15 your first year, and then you won a couple Super Bowls after that. I mean, he really...
Hey, we got to go to break.
Oh, no, I mean...
All right, we're going to keep talking about that.
Yeah, we're going
much more in the OT later.
I don't know if that was a smart idea by Fox, especially with some of the things that are out there about them right now with this Joy Taylor, Emmanuel Acho, Skip Bayless story. I don't know if that was a good idea right there by the Fox executives to cut off Rob Gronkowski. Because even though that was a headline, it seemed like he was really about to go in on Robert Kraft. That would have been even more of a headline where, yes, it would not have completely eliminated all the hilarious social media memes that I saw yesterday on Twitter. It was football, it was Joy Taylor, and Emmanuel Acho. That was all of Twitter yesterday. But maybe you could have had a larger area of Twitter taken up by Rob Gronkowski just shredding Robert Kraft, which it appeared like he was about to do. But hey, that's live television. We got to get a break, Gronk. You're about to say something crazy. Ooh, don't say it. We got to get to break. Here is Mike Vrabel. This is at his Hall of Fame induction ceremony for the Patriots Hall of Fame. This is when he was the coach of the Titans, but the Titans were on a bye week, and he ended up sitting in the luxury box last year the entire game with Robert Kraft. But this was him speaking on the field during halftime at his ceremony for getting inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame, speaking highly of the Pats organization.
I also want you not to take this organization for granted. I've been a lot of places. This is a special place with great leadership, great fans, great direction, great coaching. Enjoy it. It's not like this everywhere. Thank you very much.
I'm coming home, coming home. I'll save the rest of the people's ears right now with me singing. I have a little bit of a cold today. Not that my singing voice is unbelievable anyway, but really not good with your having a little bit of a cold, have a few of the sniffles. Alrighty, let's get to Rex Ryan. This is on DPH on Rothenberg on ESPN New York. Hey, Rex Ryan, you think you're going to interview for the Jet job? I think that's tomorrow. You think you're going to get the job?
You think you're going to get this job, right? You think you're going to be the next head coach of the Jets?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely, I do. And the reason I think I'm going to get it is because I'm the best guy. And it ain't close. The thing that you have to do, you have to connect with your football team. You have to connect with your fan base. And the way they play, that's the most important thing. Not just the X's and O's and all that. Look, this Ben Johnson, I love him. I absolutely love him. But I'm a better candidate for this job than he would be.
You're not, but Ben Johnson is not interested in the Jets job. So out of the interested candidates, there is a case to be made for Rex Ryan. And Vrabel's clearly using the Jets to get the Pats to do what they did. Ben Johnson would not even entertain going on a date with the New York Jets. That's how we'll say it. So if you miss out on Vrabel and Ben Johnson, can you get an Aaron Glenn? Can you get a Joe Brady? Can you get a Liam Cohen? And who knows if those guys would want the job. At least you know Rex wants the job. Like, the Jets are the redheaded stepchild. And for some reason, nothing against redheads or nothing against stepchilds, a lot of people don't want them. Rex at least wants you. So that's what Rex Ryan has going for him. All righty, let's go to Jerry Jones. Mike McCarthy's contract is expiring next week. Are you going to bring Big Mike back?
I don't know that I am considering making a change, is really what I'm trying to say. The complimentary verbiage or the complimentary talk about him is, I think, fact. Mike's one of the best coaches that I think there is. He was made the coach here because I thought that, and he's done absolutely nothing to diminish my opinion of him as a coach.
So then why wouldn't you bring him back? You are the GM and the owner, Jerry. You make the decision. But this is the drama, the reality TV of the drama Dallas this year. They weren't even allowed to choke Cowboys, where it doesn't matter what decision they make. It's how much drama can they provide to the ultimate decision that is probably already decided on. I still think McCarthy is going to be back, but keep everybody guessing. Mike McCarthy, hey, why should you be brought back by the Dallas Cowboys?
I don't like to talk about myself that way, but I'll just be clear. I'm a winner. I know how to win. I've won a championship. I won a championship in this building, and that's who I am. So, and we'll see where it goes.
I love that. Do I think he's a great coach right now? No, I think he's a solid coach. But him saying, hey, I want a Super Bowl in this building is like, let me know the next time the Cowboys, even though I'm the coach of the team, when was the last time they won a Super Bowl? So, nice little flex there, even though there's not much to flex with Mike McCarthy, but a nice little flex there from Mike McCarthy. Let's go to Tyreek Hill. Geez, this guy's a captain. Let me just preface that. Here is Captain Tyreek Hill after the Dolphin season came to a disappointing end.
This is my first time I haven't been in the playoffs, man. So, I mean, for me, like I said, man, I just got to do what's best for me and my family, dog. If that's here or that's wherever the case may be, man, I'm finna open that door for myself, dog. As I'm opening the door, like, I'm out, bro. So it was great playing here, but, at the end of the day, bro, I got to do what's best for my career and, what's best. Because I'm too much of a competitor to be, just
Does that mean
just out there.
Mean you thinking about leaving here?
If it is, hey, yes.
And he's already changed his social media profile pictures to Antonio Brown when he was with the Bucs, running off the field with the shirt off, throwing up the peace signal. That's a captain, Tyreek Hill there. Which how Tyreek Hill became a captain, I don't even know. That dude is one of the most selfish individuals in the league. And I don't care what people say. He's not a good dude. He's just not. And there's a long pass with Tyreek Hill. So he's a heck of a football player. Didn't have a great season this year. But I thought this guy, he loves Tua. He loves the Dolphins. Now all of a sudden he doesn't want to be there anymore. Because he's got to blame everybody else but himself. And the Dolphins have given him everything that he wanted. So what, is he going to go back outside of Andy Reid's house and Patrick Mahomes' house and beg them to take him back with the boombox? Little baby come back? Bring Reek back? Is that going to happen? Does he go to the Ravens? Where is he going to go? Someone will take him because he's a talented player, but he's also a royal pain in the ass.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, away we go. Hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We know Doug Peterson is now out of a job. The Jacksonville Jaguars have fired him. The New England Patriots, right after the game yesterday, they elected to fire Jerod Mayo. Quite frankly, you know, I met Robert Kraft twice. I don't know him well, but Robert Kraft, if you knew before the game, which I had to think he knew before the game, that Jerod Mayo was going to get fired because they want to hire Mike Vrabel, you should have just hit me up. I would have coached the Patriots yesterday for free. And I would have told those players, we're just going to take a knee down, every play. Take a knee, take a knee, take a knee, take a knee, give the ball back to the Bills, and have the Bills win the game because I wanted the number 1 overall pick to put the Pats in a position to then trade that pick. And that's the thing. Like, I am annoyed, but I'm not freaking out over the number 1 overall pick. It would have been nice to get the best of both worlds. You move down a few spots, you still get that very talented player, and you get future assets to build around Drake May. But if you told me that maybe, hey, you got the choice, even though this is not the way that it would have gone, that you'd fall down to 4, but Jerod Mayo is out, or you get the number 1 overall pick and you had to keep Jerod Mayo, I would have much rather preferred them fall down to 4 and Jerod Mayo is out rather than get the number 1 pick and future draft picks and have to keep Jerod Mayo as the head football coach. So Jerod Mayo is out. Doug Peterson is out. You've already had the Jets, Bears, and Saints make their decisions to fire their coach during the regular season. And we're sitting here, Stu, and your Las Vegas Raiders. For most of the year, it seems like a lot of people are pushing the narrative Antonio Pierce is one and done. And then the last few weeks, I've been pushing the narrative, hey, Tom Brady's relationship with Mike Vrabel. I didn't think the Patriots up until yesterday, when you heard Adam Schefter said what he said, we're going to find the way to get rid of Jerod Mayo. I thought they were going to bring him back. So even though Vrabel wanted the Patriot job, I really thought that Vrabel was going to reunite with Tommy Brady and be the coach of the Raiders. So Ben Johnson, I don't think he's considering, even if the Raiders opened up, I don't think he's considering going to Las Vegas unless he's enamored with Tom Brady, which I guess could be a possibility. I don't believe that Mike Vrabel, even if the Raiders opened up, would now consider them because he thinks, and I think we all believe, he's going to get the Patriot job. So with that being said, Stu, if I tell you that you can't get Ben Johnson and you can't get Mike Vrabel, do you still think the Raiders should fire Antonio Pierce? And do you think they will fire Antonio Pierce? Because Antonio Pierce, he spoke to the media today, and we've seen coaches speak to the media before and then get fired later. And, hey, I know we make fun of the Cowboys for sucking every last minute until they make a decision. Mark Davis also is not afraid to dance a little bit and to make this a dog and pony show. So could there be a chance late tonight or later on tonight we find out the Raiders are parting ways after a full day of deliberation? The Las Vegas Raiders are parting ways with Antonio Pierce. Yeah, it's on the table. But right now, as I sit here, 3 minutes after 4 o'clock on the East Coast, and I didn't think this the last week, I didn't think this the last 2 weeks, even though for most of the year I have thought that Antonio Pierce is coming on back, and then you change your tune, and then the day actually comes where it's decision-making day, and the decision hasn't been made to fire Antonio Pierce. I guess you're still telling me there's a chance, but ultimately, gun to my head spot right now, I do not believe that the Raiders are going to fire Antonio Pierce still.
I agree.
Well, not yet. Maybe next year.
Yeah. I mean, predicting what this team does is always very difficult. So, like you said, anything could happen. They could fire him next week, maybe. Who knows? That would just be the way they do it. But I think they couldn't get their first or second candidate. Kind of like you said, I think maybe Vrabel was the guy, maybe if someone else. I think the fact that they couldn't do that is probably why they're going to keep Pierce for at least one more year. We'll see.
And the dominoes are already starting to fall. Like, even though there's not been the official announcements on who the next coach is going to be for the Bears, for the Jets, for the Jaguars, the Saints, the Patriots, when you go through these openings, like, if we're taking an educated guess right now, and a little bit more than an educated guess, Mike Vrabel, he's going to be the next head coach of the Patriots, correct, Amundusto?
Yes, I'd be shocked.
And Ben Johnson, it feels as if he's only going to be interested out of the teams that are open right now. And let's factor in the Raiders too, even though they're not open yet, but throwing them all in the same conversation into the hopper. It seems as if Ben Johnson's only going to consider the Jaguars, the Bears, and then also the Patriots, right?
I think so.
So if you're not getting Vrabel, if you're not getting Ben Johnson, and the Raiders didn't have a quarterback, because the Raiders and the Patriots are kind of in a similar spot, right? Both first-time head coaches. I know that you had Antonio Pierce was the interim last year, but Jerod Mayo was on the staff last year. Both don't have rosters that you could really win with right now. But the difference is the Patriots have a young quarterback. That's what makes the Patriots attractive. If the Patriots didn't have Drake May, and let's say they had still Mac Jones getting thrown out to the wolves for one more year there, and now they had to go get a quarterback with the 4th overall pick, and it doesn't look like they're going to get a quarterback, no one's running to the Patriots just because Robert Kraft is known as a good owner in the league, and they won 6 Super Bowls. The reason why the Patriots are viewed as an attractive destination right now, the biggest reason is they got Drake May, and people think very highly of Drake May. And even though the Raiders have Brock Bowers, and he had a historical season for tight ends and a historical rookie season, and yeah, you have Max Crosby, and yeah, you have Christian Wilkins, but in terms of having a quarterback, you don't have one. All right, Aiden O'Connell, come on, PU, what are we doing? Gardner Minshew, please stop it. And the Raiders, what, they have the 6th pick in the draft? Is that what they have now?
Yeah, they have the 6th pick.
So could they get a quarterback? Could they move up? Yeah. You know, could Shador force himself there? Sure. But that's a lot of guessing for an owner that, let's be real, he doesn't have a lot of patience. And if you don't have a connection with Brady, right, like Vrabel does, that can make it more attractive, or if you're Ben Johnson, right, and you're kind of one of the crown jewels, him or Vrabel, the crown jewels, like if you're Mike Vrabel, and also Ben Johnson, there's better options than the Raiders. So I kind of think when you look at this, the Raiders, they're not going to keep Antonio Pierce because they believe he is this phenomenal head football coach. They already have in buyer's remorse the fact that this is a conversation. But what else are you going to get? Like, if you get rid of Antonio Pierce and I tell you that they hire Liam Cohen, or they hire Joe Brady, or they hire, Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn is a former player, defensive-minded head coach. Antonio Pierce, I know it's only been 1 year, but he's still a former defensive player and a defensive-minded head coach. Yes, Joe Brady and Liam Cohen are younger offensive minds, but last year, when the Raiders made this decision to bring in Antonio Pierce, it was a well-received decision to make him the full-time head coach. So if you tell me that it's Liam Cohen or Joe Brady, could they go on to be good head coaches? Yes, but it's still a major question mark how even though Pierce was praised last year, he was a major question mark looking on back at it. So the top 5 of the draft right now, Stu, and this is where it does not bode well for you. Tennessee is the first overall pick. They're definitely taking a quarterback. You got an offensive-minded head coach who did not have a good year one. Will Levis was an absolute unmitigated disaster. Then the Browns had the second overall pick. How do the Browns not take a quarterback? You get him on a rookie contract. Deshaun Watson already has a setback with the injury, and Deshaun Watson is now a bum at the quarterback position. He's horrible. So if Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders go 1-2, I don't want the Raiders at 6 taking Jalen Milroe or Carson Beck or, whoever the quarterbacks are going to be. Quinn Ewers, Drew Allen. No, I wouldn't do that if I'm the Raiders, because then you're reaching to take a quarterback just for the sake of taking a quarterback, not because you fell in love with that quarterback. So, yes, probably quarterbacks will go 1-2 still. If a quarterback doesn't go, and let's say one falls out of the top 2, well, then the Giants are going to gobble them up with the third overall pick. So if the Raiders want to get a quarterback, they got to make a deal with either Tennessee or Cleveland and hope one's going to pass on a quarterback. Tennessee will definitely not pass on a quarterback. Could the Browns? Potentially so. I texted our buddy, by the way, Chris Trapasso, and don't hold him to it. But this was in the moment yesterday, 4:15 p.m. Eastern time. I sent him this. Titans, Browns, Giants, and Patriots, first 4 picks, mock draft go. He goes, I'll have Tennessee taking Shedeur Sanders. Browns taking Will Campbell, the offensive tackle from LSU. The Giants taking Cam Ward, and the Patriots getting Travis Hunter. He goes, let's see how wrong I'll be in 3 months. LOL. So the Raiders are just in position where they can't really go get a quarterback. And are you really going to mortgage the future for Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders? I think Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders can be good. Right? I think they could both be good. I don't think they're going to be horrible. And do I think either, though, are going to be elite? Do I think we're either going to look at any of those two guys as at any time in their career as a top 3, top 4, top 5 quarterback? Personally, I don't. And isn't that kind of funny, Stu? If the Raiders ended up getting either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, and they ended up just being good because they had Derek Carr, who, even though I'm not the biggest Derek Carr fan, that was their problem why they let him go. Because, he reached his limit. He was just on the outside of being a top 10 quarterback. At times showed some signs that he is a top 10 quarterback. But he was good. He was fine. But he was never great. And he was never awful. So the Raiders tried to get themselves out of the Derek Carr business. They couldn't get Rodgers. They couldn't get Brady. And then you ended up bringing in Jimmy G, who stinks. If Jimmy G should be a male model instead of a quarterback. If I was Jimmy Garoppolo, save getting hit, just go be a male model somewhere. And then after that, it was Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. So I'm not saying it's easy to find a quarterback, but it's not impossible. So I do think Pierce is going to be back. Nothing that he's done exceptionally well, but it's, all right, you're not going to get a quarterback, and what else is out there? Let's just punt it, and let's see if he could impress us this upcoming season. Also, the future of Aaron Rodgers, let's delve into that. So when I look at Aaron Rodgers, I thought for most of the season he was going to be back with the Jets. Then I thought to myself, the Jets shouldn't bring him back. And I think if you want to make that job more attractive, even though you could say, oh, who the heck are the Jets bringing in? If you want to empower a new head coach and a general manager, I do not bring back Aaron Rodgers next year. But let them make that decision. So Aaron Rodgers, when I watched that documentary on Netflix, Enigma, I thought for 98% of the doc, he was kind of setting up explaining all of his other interests to kind of show you, hey, football's not my number one thing anymore. And then the last 10 seconds of that documentary, he gives you a bleep-eating grin, and he goes, maybe this will be it for me. Maybe it won't be. And I'm like, oh, he's coming back. Now, I talked to someone yesterday that knows Aaron Rodgers. And I just asked that person that knows Aaron Rodgers, do you think he's going to be coming on back? And he said, I don't know honestly, but I lean towards he's done. And it was a very long year for Aaron. Now, I thought Aaron, whether it's with the Jets or not, if you asked me on Saturday, would he be back in the NFL? I thought that Aaron Rodgers would be back in the NFL. But when he departed Green Bay, remember that scene of Randall Cobb walking off the field after the Lions game? He tried to recreate that, not as mushy and lovey-dovey as it was a Randall Cobb, but with Devontae Adams. So could the two of them, right, be walking out together and just go somewhere else next year? Absolutely. But when I watched it yesterday, and Aaron Rodgers also played well, I kind of got that feeling that was it with Aaron Rodgers, or at least he's at peace if that is it with his NFL career. But let's listen up to Aaron Rodgers on the field after the game of Fox Sports' Pam Oliver on the timing for making a decision on his future. Here's Aaron Rodgers.
And relax. I'm going to clear out my head and get healthy from the bumps and bruises from the season. And just, I got a lot of gratitude right now. I'm going to enjoy this tonight. But once I get back out west, I'm going to, take my time. And I'm not going to hold anybody up. I'm going to have conversations tomorrow with everybody here with the Jets and see what they're thinking. And then make a decision before it gets too late in the offseason.
Whatever you do, all the best.
I love you, Pam.
Love you back.
Thank you.
So there you go. And I don't know, and you're telling a reporter that you love them. And I know Pam Oliver has been at this game for a very long time. It also kind of gives you a feeling like, all right, I don't know how many more times they're going to be able to talk to you, Pam. And, you've been around a long time. I've been around a long time. So this is it. Just wanted to give you kind of a special shout out there. Now, Aaron Rodgers talking to the media because before the game, Ian Rappaport did have this report on the NFL Network that people close to Aaron Rodgers feel as if this could be it for Aaron. They're preparing for this to be it for Aaron. Here is Aaron Rodgers in that report from Rap Sheet.
Ian Rappaport said this morning, people close to him I know are preparing for the fact that this could be, in fact, be his last game in the NFL. What is your reaction to that?
People said they were close to me?
Yeah, people that Ian talked to, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a relationship with Ian. I'm not sure who does in my circle, but it's probably nobody that's talked to me in the last short while. No offense to Ian, of course. Did you on your they're going to make.
So there you go. That was Aaron Rodgers talking to the media. I'm going to transition real quickly. I know we're up against a break. The Chicago Bears, according to Adam Schefter, have sought permission to interview Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy and are awaiting a response from Dallas. Sources tell Adam Schefter and Todd Archer, who's an ESPN NFL Nation reporter covering the Cowboys, if the Cowboys don't allow permission this week, the Bears could interview McCarthy after his exclusive negotiating window with Dallas expires on January 14th. And away we go. Who the heck could be coaching the Cowboys next year? Who the heck is going to be coaching the Cowboys next year? I think this report tells you something. And I said this last week. I don't think the Bears are going to get Ben Johnson. I don't. I think Ben Johnson's going to be the next coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think Mike Vrabel is going to be the next head coach of the Patriots. Outside of that, I'm not confident really in anything else in this coaching cycle and what's going to happen. But I do feel like Vrabel will go to the Pats and Ben Johnson will go to the Jaguars. And now we will wait to see if Mike McCarthy wants to go back or maybe gets intrigued going with the younger quarterback in Caleb Williams, who's on a rookie deal compared to Dak Prescott, who's not elite, and he's getting paid an absolute fortune. Should Mike stay or should Mike go? No. All right, it is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll do a little onside offside next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
quarterbacks taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
Just to reiterate, if you're just getting into your car, tuning into us on one of our great local affiliates, Sirius XM Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, or tuning in, streaming us on YouTube. Adam Schefter, Chicago Bears have sought permission to interview Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy and are awaiting a response from Dallas, sources tell Shefty and Todd Archer. If the Cowboys don't allow permission this week, the Bears can interview McCarthy after his exclusive negotiating window with Dallas expires on January 14th. So on the Black Monday tracker, we've already known that the Bears, Saints, and Giants have been open, or the Bears, Saints, and Jets have been open. The Giants say that Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen are coming back. The Colts, Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen are coming on back. Jaguars have waved goodbye to Doug Peterson. The Patriots say goodbye to Jerod Mayo. And then the Raiders and the Cowboys. Oh, we wait. With no decision made on Mike McCarthy's future, and the Raiders, they allow Antonio Pierce to speak today, but haven't given an official word if he's in the clear as well. So let's talk about some more coaches and GMs. Stu, what do we got cooking here on Onside Offside?
All right, so as more names fall on Black Monday, 3 embattled GMs are keeping their jobs, including the Dolphins' Chris Grier, the Colts' Chris Ballard, and the Jaguars' Trent Baalke. Now, Grier took over Miami in 2016, Ballard started at Indy in 2017, and Baalke began with the Jags in 2021. And all three are a combined 0-6 in the playoffs. So onsides, offsides, all three of these GMs should have been fired.
Onsides, Chris Grier and Chris Ballard, I said this yesterday, they have to have pictures, like really embarrassing pictures of Stephen Ross and Jim Irsay. Trent Baalke, if you're getting rid of Doug Peterson, I think you should get rid of Trent Baalke. Do I think that's going to prevent someone like Ben Johnson from taking the Jaguars job? No, because if he goes there, and let's say you let Trent Baalke kind of operate this draft, but Ben Johnson has heavy input, they could get rid of the GM after the draft. Or a year from now, they could get rid of him and then let Ben Johnson pick who the next GM is going to be. So I had someone tweet me because I just put out there the only 2 names I feel confident about in this cycle landing in specific places are Mike Vrabel with the Pats and then Ben Johnson with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Alec White on Twitter says, you don't think Baalke being retained scares off Johnson? I don't, because ultimately he'll get his way if he doesn't want Trent Baalke to be there. But when it comes to those 3 GMs, Grier, Ballard, and then also Baalke, yes, if I was running those teams, if I had all those billions with the Dolphins, the Colts, and the Jaguars, I would have said, hey, Chris Grier, you fired. Hey, Chris Ballard, you fired. Hey, Trent Baalke, you fired. So, yes, all 3 of those GMs should have been fired on sides.
The Broncos might be the most surprising team in the league, but certainly in the AFC as they finished 10-7, securing the 7th seed. Bo Nix led all rookies with over 3,700 passing yards and 29 touchdown passes. So onsides, offsides, the Broncos can build a Super Bowl champion with Bo Nix at quarterback and Sean Payton as their head coach.
So, I got to give credit to the Broncos because I thought they were going to be a bottom 5 team in the NFL. I never believed in Bo Nix being the 12th overall pick, and I thought that Sean Payton lost his luster. Sean Payton did a sensational job this year. Bo Nix was phenomenal this season, and the Broncos clearly exceeded any expectation and then some that I had of them this year. And they'll play the Bills this weekend in the wild card round. But they could build, the question is, a Super Bowl champion with Bo Nix at QB and Sean Payton as the head coach. I'm not willing to go that far. And I get what Sean did in New Orleans was spectacular, but you are playing in a division still with Patrick Mahomes, right? The Chargers, even though they can't win a big game, they have Jim Harbaugh. And the Broncos are a heck of a story. The defense is awesome. Bo Nix is phenomenal right now. But a Super Bowl, in fact, and all the other teams outside of your division too, I'm not ready to go there. They're on the right track. I'm curious to see where they could take it. But for me to say I'm confident right now that they could build a Super Bowl champ with Bo as the QB and Sean as the head coach, I'm not willing to go there yet. And it's not really because of them. It's just that they're in a division with Patrick Mahomes for starters. So I will go offside on that question.
Offside.
It's like the nicest way I could say I was wrong and then praise the team and then still knock you down at the end. What do we got?
The Rams decided to rest many of their starters in Week 18, including starting Jimmy Garoppolo over Matthew Stafford. However, the move backfired as they lost to the Seahawks and dropped to the 4th seed, meaning that they will have to face the dangerous 14-3 Vikings in the first round rather than the Commanders and their rookie quarterback. So onside, offsides, it was a mistake for the Rams to rest their starters.
And you know what? I could see the Rams winning that game. So when I say that, you may go, oh, Zach, how could you say that and then say it was a mistake? But if you had to ask yourself when the decision happened Sunday in the 4 p.m. Eastern time window, would you rather than at the time, before knowing what was going to happen on Sunday Night Football, would you rather play the Vikings, if that was the case, or the Lions, if the Lions would have lost, or the Commanders? I love what the Commanders have done this year with Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels. But you'd be lying to yourself if you said, yes, I'd rather play either the Vikings or the Lions than the Commanders. So I do think that was a mistake. But with that being said, if I had to make an early pick right now, I'd actually pick the Rams to beat the Vikings. The Vikings are only a 1.5 favorite. I think a lot of people are going to look at that. Oh, they're 14-3, 10-7. Oh, lay the point. I think that's Vegas begging you to take the Vikings on the road, and then the Rams will win the game. But in the moment, I thought it was a mistake. So I will go on sides on that.
Former number 1 overall pick Bryce Young threw just 11 touchdowns last year and looked lost as a rookie, carrying that over to this season with no touchdowns and 3 picks in his first 2 games before being benched. However, since returning to the starting lineup in Week 8, Young looks rejuvenated, going 4-5 in his last 9 games, but with 13 touchdowns and 4 picks, including 5 total touchdowns in yesterday's win over the Falcons. So onsides, offsides, Bryce Young can become a franchise quarterback.
Can he become a franchise quarterback? Yes. Am I ready to say he's a franchise quarterback right now? No. What he has done this year, finding a way to perform well with less, especially when he was backed up against the wall, was he allowed me to have more confidence in him, and he showed me that he could overcome adversity, and he could be the guy that we thought he was going to be. Now, this set the table for what needs to be a monster season next year. We'll have a better understanding if he could be a franchise quarterback next year. But with what he's done this year, he has franchise quality quarterback traits. Am I ready to say he's a franchise quarterback right now? No. But can he become a franchise quarterback with what he showed this year? Yes, he can. So I'll go on sides there. Next question.
All right. The MVP race is one of the most highly contested one in years, with Josh Allen vying for his first win after leading the Bills to a 13-3 record and reaching the end zone 40 times, while Lamar Jackson hopes for his 3rd award after becoming the first ever with 4,000 passing yards and 900 rushing yards, while also throwing the most touchdown passes ever with 41, with fewer than 5 interceptions, as he had just 4. And of course, remember in 1997 when Barry Sanders and Brett Favre split the MVP. So onsides, offsides, Lamar and Allen should be co-MVPs this season.
Co-MVPs?
Co-MVPs.
Co-MVPs? First off, I hate the MVP conversation this year. And you want to know why I hate it? Because it's really between 2 guys, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. If Lamar Jackson wins his 3rd MVP, congratulations. Can you get the job done in the postseason? If Josh Allen wins his first MVP, congratulations, but can you get the job done in the postseason? So, I don't care who wins the MVP, but anyone that gets asked, hey, should you have a split MVP? Right? I hear people, you're on a show, give me a co-MVP. It means you're afraid to give your opinion. Yes, both are deserving, but this is not Participation Trophy USA. All right? I want one MVP. Not all will split the award and everyone's a winner. And personally, I think Josh Allen should win the MVP over Lamar Jackson. You could disagree. I don't really care if you disagree, and I don't really care to even have the conversation. Because ultimately it comes down to, is Lamar going to get to the Super Bowl or is Josh Allen going to get to the Super Bowl? I don't give a rat's ass about the MVP, but if you say, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen should be co-MVPs this season, go listen to a different national show. There's many other national options out there, especially with what's in the news now these days. But I'm going to go offsides on that one.
Offsides.
Co-MVPs, please. That's like when you ask a parent who's the favorite child. And they go, I love all my children. No, there's an answer there. Don't give me this co-MVP bull bleep. That's what that is. That is bull bleep. And I know exactly what Ack is about to say. Go ahead, say it.
Noodle?
Please. Not for nothing. I know if you ask my mother who the favorite child is in the family, the answer would be me. If you ask my father, I don't know if it would be me.
Noodle.
If I'm being fair. So we'll take a time out. It is the Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. But at least give an answer. Don't just give, we want co-MVPs. Lose hour. Manti Te'o will join us next. Update time first. Here's the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, there have been a total of 5 coaching changes in the NFL. Only one today, and the latest was Doug Peterson, let go by the Jaguars, who he took to the playoffs in his first season, but went a total of 22-29 in 3 years, and the bottom falling out this year, 4-13. Zach Taylor stays in Cincinnati, but among the staff exits, longtime defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo, who's out after 6 seasons. The Giants are sticking with their combination of GM Joe Shane and head coach Brian Daboll. Both get a reprieve after one of the worst seasons in team history that landed them the 3rd pick overall in the upcoming draft. The Jets and Bears have asked permission to speak with Brian Flores and Arthur Smith. Chicago also asking the Cowboys about talking to Mike McCarthy. The Packers entered the playoffs without Christian Watson. The wide receiver is believed to have suffered a torn ACL and more, putting the start of next year in jeopardy as well. And the Browns might be thinking more about a quarterback with the 2nd pick in the draft, as Deshaun Watson suffered a setback in his recovery from a torn Achilles that will certainly lengthen his timetable, and he might require another surgery. More will be known in the next few days. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, a lot in the NFL world today, but Notre Dame is 2 wins away from winning the national championship. On Thursday, they'll be going up against Penn State in the semifinal. And now joining us, of course, is Manti, the legendary Notre Dame linebacker, won the Maxwell Award, the Chuck Bednarik Award, the Bronco Nagurski Trophy as well, all back in 2012. And now he's doing a kick-ass job with the NFL Network, and you can see Manti on NFL Network's Good Morning Football, weekdays at 8 a.m. Eastern, and on GMFB Overtime, weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on the Roku channel, and airing in syndication across the country. Manti, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this, and how you been?
Of course, brother. I've been great, man. It's a good start to the new year. Some good football, obviously, with Notre Dame winning that game against Georgia. I couldn't be happier for them, for Coach Freeman and the boys. But 2025 has been good so far. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on. So this is a tough Notre Dame football team. And I know sometimes you have to have some tough losses to go and have some glory moments, especially at a school like Notre Dame when you're trying to get to a place that the program hasn't been in a long time. But that was a program after week 2 when they lost to Northern Illinois. Not many people are expecting them to be in this spot. What really stands out to you about the resilience of this team and also their head football coach, Marcus Freeman?
Well, you said it at the last part is Coach Freeman. I am an honest believer that every team is a reflection of their head coach, his characteristics, his values. And, ever since I met Coach Freeman, he's made me want to run through a brick wall. So I can only imagine what it is for those guys over there that suit up for him every Saturday. I think I was there for the Northern Illinois game, and there was a lot of excitement coming off the Texas A&M win the week before. And, everybody talked about the trap game. But the thing about that Northern Illinois game after it was done, I think what stood out to me and what said everything about Coach Freeman that I needed to know was the Northern Illinois coach reached out and told him, hey, man, there's some things that I saw that helped us to beat you. Would you be willing to listen? And for the head coach of a program that has a lot of pride and a lot of tradition, it takes a lot of humility to, I think, listen to that type of feedback. And I know it wasn't comfortable for him, but look where the team is now. I think it's everything that Coach Freeman wanted it to be, and I couldn't be more happy as an alum of that school. And I know there's a lot of pride with a lot of guys, but Coach Freeman is the man. I said this the first time that he was named the head coach, that he's the man to lead that program, and I couldn't be happy for him.
Now, Brian Kelly, did a sensational job at Notre Dame. Unfortunately, you guys got blown out in that BCS national championship game. He was in the playoff 2 times and wasn't able to get a victory up against Alabama and Clemson. Do you just think Marcus Freeman is the better guy for that job than if Brian Kelly would have stayed? Because I don't know if they would have had the success if Brian would have stayed there.
Well, let me say this about Brian Kelly is Brian Kelly is a good offensive-minded coach. He knows what it takes to have a successful offense. And I think when you're talking about a head coach of any program, and you can look across the board at all the great head coaches, they not only understand the X's and O's of the game, but they also understand how to connect with their players. They understand how to get the most out of their players and how to really push them to become the best version of themselves. And I see that in Coach Freeman. I see that in Coach Dan Campbell. I had the great opportunity to be with him in New Orleans when he was the tight ends coach, interim head coach. And just to be around him, there's certain characteristics and certain feelings and certain culture that is built in the building when you have somebody like a Coach Marcus Freeman and a Dan Campbell that you just really buy into them, and I'm a firm believer that anybody can go up on a chalkboard and draw X's and O's on the board. It takes a very special leader to turn those X's and O's into actual plays that can become highlights and lead you to a championship. And so that's why I've been such a believer in Coach Freeman since the beginning. Is he not only understands the game from an X's and O's standpoint, but he played the game at a high level. And he has those leadership characteristics where you want to follow that guy wherever he goes, and he'll stand up for you. And I think that's the biggest difference with Coach Freeman compared to Coach Kelly.
Talking right now to Manti Te'o. You know what it's like to dominate a program and dominate the nation while at Notre Dame. Xavier Watts, right, got all the praise last year, still had a chip on his shoulder, got snubbed, wasn't a finalist this year. But, man, what he's doing week in and week out is really impressive. You know how tough that is to be at that level week in and week out. What stands out to you with Xavier Watts?
Man, Xavier Watts, I think what's so beautiful is he's kind of riding off of for some years now. We've had some really good safeties kind of come out of Notre Dame. Julian Love, Kyle Hamilton, and now Xavier is kind of the next one. And I played with another one, Harrison Smith, who we just saw last night play for the Vikings. Notre Dame has a tradition of producing really good safeties. And Xavier, when I watch him in that system that they have over there at Notre Dame right now, it's an NFL system. And for any team that's looking for an all-purpose, all-around, all-pro safety, you're getting that in Xavier Watts, not only this year, but last year. His ability to take the ball away, his understanding of football. And you see that when you watch Notre Dame play, is you watch how he moves around, he watches how he disguises, and he watches how he gets interceptions and forced fumbles and all of that. It says a lot about that young man and his ability to stand out amongst stars. When you are amongst a whole bunch of Division I guys who are 5-star, 4-star guys, and you stand out amongst them, it says a lot about Xavier Watts, and I'm excited to see how far he goes, not only in his college career, but in his NFL career.
That game up against Georgia, Manti Te'o, when you look back at it, right, special teams were dominant, defense was dominant, and now the question is when you go up against Penn State, can the offense take it to a different level? When you look at the quarterback and Riley Leonard going up against a good Penn State defense led by Abdul Carter, where's your confidence that Riley Leonard could play his best game up against Penn State?
I've been really impressed with Riley Leonard's growth over the year. He's had his struggles with his accuracy, in all parts of the field, whether it be a short pass, deep pass, whatever it is. But one thing that really stood out to me this past game was Riley's competitive nature. I think on that 3rd and 7 call where he scrambled to the left side of the field and jumped over a Georgia Bulldog defender to make that first down. That says everything I need to know about the young man. Going into this game against Penn State, if anything, I would tell Riley, just do what you do, man. I think the way that they have him set up with the RPOs, with the quarterback designed runs, I think they're doing a really good job. I felt that was a great adjustment because Georgia was doing really good against the run. And so when they switched to those quarterback runs with Riley Leonard, that's when we started to make a little bit success in that run game. And I think if we're able to balance that out and Riley just plays his game, I think we'll be okay.
Wrapping up with Manti Te'o, does a great job now at the NFL Network. Obviously, your story has been well documented. I love the documentary that came out a few years ago. Selfishly, I was in it interviewing you at the Heisman, so I did like that part of it. But Also, to get real serious here for a second, I thought it was a good way to understand what really did happen. And I think it changed a lot of ways that people look at you. Just wondering, how therapeutic was it to finally get the entire version of your story out there when you did the Netflix doc?
Well, it was very therapeutic, and honestly, it got very dark. I'm not going to lie. I thought that I was able to heal from a lot of the trauma that happened after 2013. But when you go into a documentary and you start going through text messages and, old stuff that you had to, create context for the viewers, old emotions start to come up that needed some addressing. And I was just very fortunate that I had my wife next to me, that she was very supportive. She understood what a task it was going to be, not only for myself, but for our family. She was pregnant with our oldest at that time. So there was a lot of things going for me during that whole process that kind of kept my mind anchored in what was truly important. And I'm grateful for everybody that was a part of the documentary, because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just my story, that it was the entire story. Whenever you hear somebody's story, you're always going to ask, what does the other side say? What does the other side have? What are their comments? And so what the greatest part about that film was, we had everybody that was around the story at that time included in the piece. And we let the viewer kind of have their interpretation of it, like art should be. And so I was very grateful for it, for Ryan Duffy and for Tony Vainuku, the two directors that directed that piece, because my life kind of 180'd at that point, and everybody kind of remembered who I was before all the drama. And those who didn't know who I was, they had a respect for me and admiration at that time that, that it had been a long time since I got that kind of feedback. And I was really, really appreciative of it. And I'm trying to push that narrative forward now.
Perfectly said. It was really cool to see the response and how positive then people were talking about you after the documentary. While we have you here, I know you do a great job with the NFL Network now. Jerod Mayo out in New England, Doug Peterson out in Jacksonville. I kind of feel as if Mike Vrabel is going to go back to the Patriots and be their head coach. And then I'm going to predict that Ben Johnson is going to be the next head football coach of the Jaguars. How about that?
Well, I think that's a good prediction. I think everybody has what they think is going to be the next thing. I think if anything, it goes back to what I said before. Every team is a reflection of their head coach. So just ensure that when you have those meetings with those head coaches, if they don't make you feel like you want to run through a brick wall, that ain't the guy for your team. And so that's, if I could say anything for those franchises that are looking for a new head coach, just keep that in mind, and I think they should be okay.
And like you said, you're around Dan Campbell. You were also around Sean Payton. The Lions, people expected them to be here, but with all those injuries, it shows the true leader that Dan Campbell is. And then for Sean Payton, man, who would have thought they'd be a playoff team this year? But he found his guy in Bo Nix, and that's been a pretty damn good 1-2 punch this season.
Yeah, there's something to be said about Sean Payton and a really good quarterback. He just, when you have that pairing, great things happen. You saw that in New Orleans with Drew Brees. Great things happen. And Bo Nix is one of those quarterbacks. One thing I love about Bo Nix is this, and I'll say this, Zach, is in the day and age where all of these quarterbacks are getting to the NFL early and they don't have a lot of reps under their belt in college, for somebody like Bo, who had a very long college career, he saw a lot of snaps, he played a lot of snaps. You're starting to see the difference in the maturity at, the way that he plays this game. He's seen everything. And then when you bunch him up with a guy like Sean Payton, beautiful things happen. And we saw that yesterday against the Chiefs, him making those long runs, those nice passes. And so I know that the Chiefs are going to be somebody to deal with in the AFC West for a long time. And what a great division that's going to be with Jim Harbaugh, the Chargers, with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes over there in Kansas City. I'm anxious to see what they do with Las Vegas, but the AFC West is going to be a very strong division for a long time, especially with Sean Payton in there now.
Yeah, I was all waiting to see if Antonio Pierce is going to be back or not. I know he had his press conference a few hours ago. Last thing I'll ask you, Manti Te'o. Adam Schefter just had this about an hour ago. The Bears have sought permission to interview Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy and are awaiting a response from Dallas. If the Cowboys don't allow permission this week, the Bears can interview McCarthy after his exclusive negotiating window with the Cowboys expires on January 14th. In your gut, do you feel like McCarthy will be back with the Cowboys, or is he going somewhere else?
Man, honestly, with how the Cowboys have kind of finished off this year on uptick, I'm not too sure. If they were continuing on that decline, I would say that I don't think that he would be in Dallas again, but I think where they're heading, there could be a chance that he's still in Dallas, but I'm not too sure. What I do know is, certain names go around the NFL as far as coaches, and when you're a Super Bowl winning coach, which he is, it's hard to go against him, and so whether he's with the Dallas Cowboys or not, I think that he'll be with the team eventually if he's not with Dallas.
He is Manti Te'o. He's an NFL Network analyst. You can see him on NFL Network's Good Morning Football weekdays at 8 a.m. Eastern and on GMFB Overtime weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on the Roku channel and airing in syndication across the country. Manti, it was great to reconnect with you. Appreciate you doing this, and good luck to Notre Dame coming up on Thursday.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Happy New Year.
You got it. Right back at you. There he is, Manti Te'o. Played in the NFL, obviously, with the Chargers and the Saints. I think it was on the Bears there for a quick sip of coffee. And obviously, everyone knows him with this story and everything that did transpire at Notre Dame and from that time period of his life as well. All righty, we'll take a timeout. We're approaching 5 o'clock straight up here on the East Coast. We'll do a little no-huddle offense, look back at Week 18 when we do return. But we also still have to come a little NFL inside information that we'll hopefully get to you from an NFL insider, James Palmer, who does a great job for Bleacher Report. He's going to join us at 5:20 p.m. Eastern time. We'll get his thoughts on some of the happenings around the NFL today and what is a Black Monday. All righty, coming on back, Zach Gelb Show, returning in 5.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Week 18 in the books. James Palmer going to join us coming up in 20 minutes from now. We'll get all of his thoughts and all the rumors around the NFL. But we got to recap Week 18 and highlight some of the important games, some big questions that we have out of those games for one of those teams that did participate in them with a little no-huddle offense. Stu, hit it!
Touchdowns, sacks, upsets, and last-minute heroics. Another NFL Sunday is in the books, and we've got you covered with the biggest plays and sound bites from another wild week in the National Football League. It's time for No Huddle Offense on the Zach Gelb Show.
So we started off with the game that was supposed to be the game, but it ended up being a very disappointing game. Lions, they have locked up the number 1 seed. The road to the Super Bowl in the NFC travels through Detroit. They're 15-2. The Minnesota Vikings fall to 14-3. What's your prize for going 14-3? Well, you're the 5th seed. You're on the road. You play the Rams coming up on Monday. Lions win 31-9. Not as much of a blowout as what the final score does say if you ended up watching that game. But early on, Kevin O'Connell went for 2 opportunities inside his own 10-yard line, or the Lions' 10-yard line, and Sam Darnold just missed both throws. Darnold was jittery all throughout the game, just did not perform well, was 18-41 for 166 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Justin Jefferson should have had more than 3 catches for 54 yards. Jordan Addison had 1 catch for 0 yards, and I saw I think it was his dad afterwards, that's on social media, like ripping apart Sam Darnold and also Kevin O'Connell. I saw that on social media, so that was interesting to me. Only had 6 targets in the game. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 for 77. Laporta, 7 for 63. Jameson Williams, 6 for 34. Jared Goff, 231 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. But the player of the game was Jahmyr Gibbs. He ended up finishing with 170 total yards and not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 touchdowns in the game. 3 rushing, 1 receiving for Jahmyr Gibbs, and here was his 4th touchdown of the game. This made it Lions 31, Vikings 9.
Goff gets the snap, handoff Gibbs, running left, cuts it up, lowers his shoulder, powering his way to the 1, gets a shove, he's into the end zone! Touchdown Lions! fourth touchdown tonight for Jahmyr Gibbs. This one from 3 yards out, and with 5:14 to go, the Lions lead 30-9. What a night for Jahmyr Gibbs.
And that audio, courtesy of Westwood One, as the Detroit Lions have locked up the number 1 seed. Stu, what's the question here?
Yeah, did this game give you confidence that the Lions defense can stand up in the playoffs?
Anzalone coming back was big. You know, he's a heart and soul player for them. I don't think Aiden Hutchinson is going to be able to come back if they reach the Super Bowl. But they got to get 2 victories to get to the Super Bowl. So if you look at right now, if I had to give you my wild card predictions today just in the NFC, even without knowing the status of Jalen Hurts, I think the Eagles are going to beat the Packers. Christian Watson now out for the year. Right now, I would still pick the Bucs over the Commanders. And I would say the Rams beat the Vikings. That would be my first guess right now. Don't hold me to it. So if that holds true, Eagles-Bucs coming up at Lincoln Financial Field, 2-3 game. And then you would see the Rams on the road up against the Lions. They played back in week 1, if you recall, and they played in the playoffs last year. The Lions won in overtime. So can the Lions beat the Rams and then beat the Eagles or the Bucs? I know, yeah, absolutely they can. And you know what? Even though you look back going into that game, the hot commodities, right, were Ben Johnson being talked about. I thought the best coordinator in the game, even Brian Flores has been talked about a lot. I thought the best coordinator in the game was Aaron Glenn. So can they just be good enough on defense? Yes, I think they can. And I do believe that what you saw last night, even though Darnold was jittery and he did not play well, it was also because he was under duress. And that Lions team just did a great job just shutting down what is usually a great Vikings offense. So, yeah, that has to give you confidence that this defense can perform well in the playoffs. All right, let's go to Saturday. Man, I'm really annoyed because I had the Bengals laying 2.5. The Bengals ended up winning 19-17. That looked like a lock for most of the game. So I going into last night, I needed the Vikings to win, laying the 3, or plus the 3, getting the 3. Because Jody had them, and we would have tied for picks on the year. That didn't happen, so I ended up losing picks for the regular season. But we both had crazy good records, you know, me and the guest pickers. But that Bengals-Steelers game, that was just a bad beat. Up most of the game, covering the 2.5, and you end up losing because the Bengals only win by 2. But the final score, Bengals 19, Steelers 17. Joe Burrow, 277 yards passing, a touchdown interception. Ends up leading the NFL with 4,918 yards passing and 43 passing touchdowns. Jamar Chase leads the NFL in receiving yards with 1,708 yards. T. Higgins could be his final game with the Bengals, 4 for 53. Trey Hendrickson, he ends up leading the NFL in sacks, 3.5 sacks in the game, had 17.5 on the season. Russell Wilson, yikes, did not play well in this one. George Pickens, yikes, didn't play well in this one. Only had 1 reception in the contest for 0 yards, and the Steelers now have 4 straight losses. Pittsburgh 10-7 as they limp into the postseason. The Bengals, they're 9-8. And I think everyone in the AFC is happy not to see the Bengals. Even though the Bengals did not beat good opponents until the last 2 weeks of the season, the Broncos and the Steelers, you have Trey Hendrickson, who led the league in sacks, Jamar Chase, Triple Crown, and then Joe Burrow leading the league in so many passing categories. You can't make the postseason. I know Lou Anarumo was fired today, but that's a 19-17 final. And Bengals do win. They're 9-8. They missed the postseason. Steelers, they'll go up against the Ravens in Baltimore. They lose the AFC North. Now they'll go play the AFC North champions in the Baltimore Ravens coming up this weekend. But let's hear a highlight. This is the Bengals stopping the Steelers on 4th down to secure the victory.
All right, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. 4th down and 12, 15 seconds to go. Wilson sends 2 receivers out to each side of the formation. Russell has the ball. Short drop. Fires a pass. Incomplete. Freiermuth couldn't hold on. And with 11 seconds to go, that is coffin nails.
Bam, bam, bam.
At least you get one good call from Dan Horde last call and Dave Lapham on the Bengals radio network. But still, what's the question as we emerge from this one with the Bengals winning but still not making the postseason because they couldn't get any help? They got help from the Dolphins, but they didn't get any help from the Broncos. They needed the Broncos to lose, and the Chiefs, they were like, we're going to lay down. We're gonna, even though we could beat the Bengals, we did so this year, we want no part of seeing them in the postseason.
Yeah, I guess the question here is, was this T. Higgins' final game with the Bengals?
I think so. Remember, this is a cheap organization. They still haven't paid Jamar Chase. And I think the price is going to be so rich that T. Higgins is going to say, yeah, Cincinnati, you're not willing to do enough. So I do believe he's going to go elsewhere. With a lot of teams need a number one wide receiver. And he clearly is capable of being a number one wide receiver, though he gets injured a ton. But Jamar Chase, we all know, is their number one wide receiver. All righty. The Patriots and the Bills. This ends up being Jerod Mayo's final game in his lone season as the head coach of the New England Patriots. And it was a win for the Patriots, but it was really a loss because they go from having the number one overall pick to the fourth overall pick. Even though the Patriots wouldn't have kept the pick, they could have used some resources from a trade that they would have made with the team that needed a quarterback to get more picks for the future and only move down a few spots. So the Pats win 23-16. I'll tell you, Joe Milton, I know it's only one game, but Joe Milton looked really damn good. And Joe Milton, he's always had the potential. He's always had a big arm, but he can never put it together. It's one game. It's the final week of the season. But he was 22 of 29 for 241 yards passing, a touchdown, a rushing touchdown. Kayshon Boutte had 7 catches for 117 yards and a touchdown. The Pats end up dropping from number 1 to number 4 in the draft. You had Mitch Trubisky and Mike White playing quarterback. Josh Allen did get the start to continue his consecutive start streak. But let's hear the highlight. This is Joe Milton on a 48-yard touchdown strike to Kayshon Boutte.
Rolling to his right, chased by a pair of Bills. Throws on the gun. The pass is going to be caught at the 20 by an open Boutte, who's going to trot into the right, into the end zone. Touchdown, Patriots.
Did I call it? Did I call it? Get him outside the pocket. You got the first touchdown. I got the second one. Man, Milton.
They say an open Boutte there? Is that what they said? Are we talking about FS1 or are we talking about Kayshon Boutte? Just wondering right there. Alrighty, I'll shut up. Anyway, Stu, what's the question here? As that was the Patriots Radio Network.
All right, do you think it was the right move for the Patriots to fire Mayo?
Absolutely. You can get Mike frickin' Vrabel. Ben Johnson is interested. I said last year, why is Jerod Mayo the coach? Oh, because Robert Kraft had a hush-hush, wink-wink deal with Jerod Mayo. Made him the coach in waiting, and then he was daring enough and bold enough, Robert Kraft, to get in front of the cameras at Amazon Prime and say, oh, I thought 5 years ago that this guy was going to be the head football coach. And I knew then. So after 1 year, he's gone because not only were they bad, they were embarrassing. And other coaches that have more clout in this league and that are viewed to be more successful, like a Mike Vrabel, he wanted the job again. And you can't pass up on him twice. And even Ben Johnson saying, hey, I'll flirt with you guys as well. So, yes, right move to get rid of Jerod Mayo. Saints and Buccaneers. I thought the Bucs were going to blow this. And then, yes, by the time the Falcons got to overtime against the Panthers, they already knew they weren't going to the postseason because the Bucs controlled their own destiny. So, in reality, even if the Bucs lost, the Panthers won yesterday, so the Falcons would have lost and the Bucs still would have gone to the postseason. But still, with all that being said, it was one of those moments where you thought, is Tampa Bay going to mess this up? And then Baker Mayfield happened. Here's the 32-yard touchdown pass to Jalen McMillan.
Empty backfield look for Baker Mayfield now. Looking upfield, looking flushed out of the pocket. Dances outside, throws the ball upfield. He's got a receiver. Open, caught, touchdown Tampa Bay! Touchdown Tampa Bay! Jalen McMillan, 5th game in a row. He's come up with a touchdown. Fire the cannons. Bucs are on tied at 19-19.
So let me just have a quick moment here. Gene Deckeroff, legend on the Bucs Radio Network. He's saying what? Hire the cannons, hire the cannons, hire the cannons. Because they have a pirate ship at Raymond James Stadium where they're firing the cannons. Well, Jalen McMillan had a first down in this game, and he was pointing for a first down and then did kind of a first down signal that may have looked like he was shooting a gun, an air gun, right? You know, maybe. And that's a penalty. I get the sensitivity. I get the gun issues in this world. But the fact that that's a flag when you have an announcer screaming, fire the cannons, and you have a pirate ship where they're firing cannons, that's just the dumbest thing to me. That he ended up getting a flag there in that spot. No one's looking at Jalen McMillan and saying, hey, he's promoting gun violence with that celebration. But that's the NFL for you. Spencer Rattler in this game, 26 of 42 for 240 yards for the Saints. Jawan Johnson, 6 for 80 yards. Baker Mayfield, he is awesome. Had 2 passing touchdowns in his game. Finishes the season with 4,500 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions on the season. Go, Bucky. Go. Bucky Irving, 19 carries for 89 yards and a touchdown. Jalen McMillan, as you just heard, 5 catches, 74 yards and a touchdown at the end. You get your 1,000 yards, 11 straight, so you have the Jerry Rice record with you. And then also, you get I think it was a $3 million bonus or something like that, all in that moment where they threw the ball to Mike Evans when he needed a few more yards. So he finishes with 9 catches for 89 yards, ties Jerry Rice with 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons. But anyway, Stu Pac, what's the question here?
Yeah, what's the future of our guy, Derek Carr in New Orleans?
That's where we're going off this one. I'm going to be honest. I did not look at the question sheet before this. So I thought for sure that this would have to do something with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the postseason. So Derek Carr has 2 years left on his contract. I guess he's going to be back next year. But is he going to be viewed as the guy, like that you can't get rid of him? Or if you're impressed with Spencer Rattler, no. You'll let the new, I was going to say new GM, but they're dopes. They're not getting rid of Mickey Loomis. You'll let the new head coach and the old GM decide that. So I guess Derek Carr's back, but no one thinks he's the dude. Alrighty, let's hear from Cairo Santos. This is the 51-yard game-winning field goal as the Bears, they finally did it. Go, Pack, go! Or, oh no, with the Packers as the Packers lose. Here we go.
2 seconds on the clock. Taylor extends his hand. Snap. Placement made. Cairo Santos. Kick is up. And the kick is good! Yes! And the Bears have walked off and won in Green Bay, putting to bed 2 nasty losing streaks. The in-season streak and the Packer streak. One ends at 11. The other ends as well. And the Bears win it 24-22. Cairo Santos, good for 51.
And that win snaps an 11-game losing streak for the Bears to the Packers. Their last one was in 2018. Caleb Williams only had 148 yards passing in the game. He finished his rookie season. No 4,000 yards. Bears never had a 4,000-yard passer. 3,541 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And Caleb also had 489 rushing yards with no rushing touchdowns. DJ Moore, 9 for 86 with the touchdown. Roman Dunze, 2 for 18. Only 54 catches on the season for 734 yards and 3 touchdowns. And you had Jordan Love, 7 of 12 for 69 yards. He left the game with an injury. It looked like he was going to return there for a little bit. And Christian Watson carted off. He's now going to be done for the season, that we did learn. Eagles going to be hosting the Packers next week, or this weekend, on Sunday at 4:30 in South Philadelphia. But Stu, what's the question here? And I'm assuming it has to do actually with the Bears and not the Packers.
It is with the Bears. What's your level of confidence that the Bears will get this right in their head coaching hire?
Low, because they're not going to get Vrabel, and I don't think they're getting Ben Johnson. So I don't know what the Bears are going to do. You know who we're going to go to? James Palmer. He's going to join us next. Maybe he'll give us some insight on who the Bears are going to hire to try to get this thing right. That's a No Huddle Offense for Week 18. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, this is Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. A lot of chaos going around in the NFL world. See, we already knew that 3 jobs were open, and those 3 jobs were the Bears, the Saints, and the Jets. Questions were, what other jobs would open up? We knew the Jaguars were going to open up. At least their head coach, Trent Baalke's still coming back as their GM. But the Jaguars officially have parted ways with Doug Peterson today. And then a lot of us assumed that the Raiders would be saying goodbye to Antonio Pierce, but right now we're still in the I don't know state. And obviously the Patriots, right after the game yesterday, they did, I think they waited 90 minutes. And then you have the statement from Robert Kraft as Jerod Mayo is out as the next head football coach of the Patriots. And we'll get to some predictions coming up later on who's going to go where. But the obvious one is Vrabel going to New England. If Vrabel doesn't wind up in New England, I do believe we will all be stunned. And I think the only way Vrabel doesn't wind up in New England is if Ben Johnson really wants the job and he blows the Kraft family out of the water, where it's like, oh my goodness gracious, you know, we'll give up on one of our guys in Mike Vrabel who played here to go bring in Ben Johnson. So that's what we're monitoring right now. And then you have this Mike McCarthy situation where his contract expires next week, and the Bears are seeking permission to interview him, and we'll see if the Dallas Cowboys are going to grant him that permission as well. But right now, let's go around the NFL, and we'll touch base with one of the best insiders in the business. Does a great job, senior NFL reporter for Underdog Fantasy, also NFL insider for Bleacher Report. Saw him a few weeks ago in Philadelphia, where he wasn't happy about his Ohio State Buckeyes because they lost to Michigan. But now James Palmer can actually smile because the Buckeyes are 2 wins away from winning it all. So how about that? It's a new day for you, James Palmer.
It's huge, Zach, buddy. It's huge. I mean, I was where you saw me. I was low. I was real low. I had gotten accustomed to utter domination. And I believe I watched a clip from my good buddy Rich Eisen, my nemesis from Michigan. Yeah. And Rich was speaking about, I just wish Ohio State would make it competitive. And I'm like, bro, You guys lost like 16 of 18 prior to these 4 years. Like, stop. But it put me in a worse spot. But now, I mean, the trenches are playing great. Like, O-line, D-line's playing really, really well. I just, the stuff I hear about Jeremiah Smith is like unicorn type of information. He's just unbelievable. And Will Howard's actually answering the bell, because I'll just be honest. And I think I might have said this to you in the press box. My thought on Will Howard is this: he's always a yard short and a second late, and that just kind of seems to sum it up. But he's been great. He's been solid. He's run the show. I'm stoked. I think we should beat Texas, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it would be something though if you guys are already celebrating that national championship and then you don't find the way to win.
Oh, there you go. Now you just took us. Listen, not to say I haven't been nervous. I was terrified. I don't know why in the second half against Oregon. I'm like, when they scored the second touchdown, I was like,
come on.
This is the spot you don't want to be in. Do you give them yards? You don't want explosive plays, but they'll march. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're good though.
James Palmer here with us. Alrighty, Mike McCarthy, that's a big story right now. Jerry was very confusing after the game. No one knows what the Cowboys are going to do. I just read the Schefter report a little over an hour ago, 90 minutes ago, that the Bears have reached out to try to get permission to interview him. The contract expires anyway next week. What does your gut tell you right now? Is McCarthy back with the Cowboys for 2025?
Well, I think first, I think that's smart of the Bears. I think you put it out there for McCarthy to know. You put it out there for all of us to know. You put it out there for Jerry to know that this is day one. You're allowed to make these calls and these requests. And I think making it known instead of the entire league sitting on their hands and waiting for Jerry, I think that was a smart move by Chicago. And so what do I think ends up happening? I think there needs to be an evaluation from Mike McCarthy about whether the Cowboys are right for him as equal as the Cowboys are saying, is Mike McCarthy right for us? Because all Jerry has done is sent Irish guilt his way and been like, whoa, I don't know. But like, you haven't given him a contract extension. You haven't given him any sort of sense that he should be returning. We know the way that they went into the season. And these are all points that I would say Mike should be looking at it. They knew blatant holes that they had coming into this year. They knew running back was an issue. They knew certain other spots on the roster were issues, and they weren't fixed. And then in the middle of the season, you see them make, in what multiple executives have told me was clear-cut, far and away, the worst trade that was made at the deadline in Jonathan Mingo. Like, so where is this headed for you in Dallas? And if you have a clean out, is there a spot that's better for you? I wouldn't be surprised if Mike McCarthy's going, maybe there's a spot that is better for me. There's a lot that needs to be sorted out between him and the rest of his staff as well, if things are going to continue there. But I do think they have been happy with what Mike's done over the last several weeks, and I think it's universal around the league that he is a really good football coach.
And I also think a thought right now, a lot of people believe that Vrabel is going to go to the Patriots. So let's assume that happens. I know you've talked about it. I've talked about it. I really do believe Ben Johnson's going to the Jaguars. Now, we all know the Bears would love to get Ben Johnson. If Vrabel and Ben Johnson are off the board, where does Chicago go? Or are you hearing otherwise with Ben Johnson now?
Well, what I wanted to mention was my pick for Ben Johnson was also Jacksonville. If you speak to people in Detroit that know how he's wired, that would be the market that would probably fit him best. He's definitely a close-the-door, tinker, mad scientist, behind-the-scenes, unbelievable designer and scheme creator and play caller, where you got like 6 people covering you down in Jacksonville. Like, this might be the best fit for Ben, and you have a quarterback in place. You have no cultural issues inside that locker room, to my understanding at all, that you would have to work out as being a first-time head coach, right? Which is one of the things that sometimes first-time head coaches have to struggle with on top of everything else they have to do. It checked a lot of boxes. The reason I wanted to bring it up is, speaking to a number of people this weekend and then this afternoon, the perception of the Jaguars' job has changed dramatically with Trent Baalke being retained. That was assumed this weekend with a number of people I asked as the best job available if both general manager and head coach were available. Because then Ben Johnson can also come in and bring the GM that he desires, or whoever comes in brings in the GM that they desire, and they work, copacetic, and it's wonderful. I think that job now, the perception of it in Jacksonville has changed with Trent Baalke being retained. And if you watch that press conference, the vast majority of the questions were about why is Trent Baalke still here, to Shad Khan and to Trent himself. And so I do think that job has landed a little bit differently now in a lot of people's eyes. And where does Chicago go now? I do get the sense, and I have heard this like from plenty, that they want kind of like a leader of men type of character. Is that a Brian Flores? Is that a Mike Vrabel? But he's most likely off the board. I think those traits are extremely important because yes, developing Caleb Williams is a massive, massive part of this evaluation process. To my understanding, there are massive cultural issues specifically on that offensive side of the ball in that locker room. And I don't think the Bears search committee is discrediting that importance in their search at all.
So whether we want to put Ben Johnson in there or not, and he's a possibility, like if you had to say 3 names right now, just as this gets started to monitor for the Bears job with all what you just said, who would those 3 names be that you also think are realistic?
Yeah, and Ben is realistic because I would say he's not going to take a lot of interviews. And so he's very selective in what he wants to do. To break him down really quickly, I would say if you look at it, there's so many common opponents between Chicago and Detroit. He probably saw plenty of film of Caleb Williams to go, I can work with this. If he didn't, I would assume he wouldn't take the interview, right? All that film carries over for him from what he's watching. So I would say Ben's on that list. I would say, Flores, they definitely have the ability to look at some things, but he's a complicated candidate for sure. I don't know, like they got a wide net, and they're going to go really. They're going to look at a lot of people for sure. I don't know if Pete Carroll's realistic, but experience is going to be a big thing for them. I think a really big thing for them. They don't want to my understanding, have some of those issues that happen with first-year head coaches. They'd like to avoid some of those growing pains. And so experienced guys, I think, would be on that list, maybe a little bit higher right now in the early portion of the process.
James Palmer here with us. What about the Raiders? No official word yet on Antonio Pierce. They let him do the press conference. I know Eberflus did the press conference, then got fired. What happens with Antonio Pierce?
Yeah. First off, which starter jacket did you have, Zach, of that group with the quarter zip? Sorry, Manning brothers, and your quarter zips on Monday Night Football. That's the OG quarter zip. That starter jacket with the big front pocket that he was rocking. I had a Phoenix Suns one because Barkley left the Sixers and went to the Suns. So I had a Suns one and a Blackhawks one. I don't know if you had one or not.
I actually got sent a nice starter's jacket from the folks at Crown Royal recently, which was very nice.
Crown Royal starter jacket.
Yeah,
That's on par with when I was in middle school, like the Charlotte Hornets jacket that everybody had. That was a big deal. Listen, I don't think you have him go out there and now you have all this time pass after this, and you end up moving on. I am curious about the relationship in the building and the relationship between Telesco and AP, how that is. I think there's some division in that building. Can they work some of these things out? I do think the back end of the season, when you started hearing things like Mark Davis was sitting in on some coaches meetings, he was having conversations with AP about the future. I don't think you have all those conversations and do all that stuff. And Mark was pleased with the way they played over the last couple of weeks, even though they're not a very good team and have a very good roster. Like, pleased with the way they played, with the way AP was getting stuff out of them. And I don't think you do some of those things if you're sure you're going to fire a guy. So I don't think, right now, the way it looks, I don't know how you move on from him now. I mean, like, that's almost like, well, it is the Raiders, but I don't think you would do that right now. And there were some things that, talking to people there, it was AP just has to learn X, Y, and Z. It's similar to Jerod Mayo. The former player comes in, and sometimes the former player, the former captain in you, comes in through the media, whether it's business decisions or we're playing soft. Some of that stuff he's learning on the fly. And I think if he stays, that would tell you that he's learned enough in their eyes. And obviously the Brady role in that building is something that complicates matters in a lot of people's minds about what they would do moving forward. That's why Vrabel's name was obviously linked there quite a bit because of his relationship with Tom. But I don't know how much time Tom can give right now. So I think where it's at is where it's at. I think he made the right move at OC. When you pull certain levers and they work, I think it's really in your favor. Same thing for like McDermott last year when he changed OCs.
wrap it up with James Palmer. When you take a glance at New England, everyone thinks, right, it's going to be Vrabel. Is there any chance it's not Mike Vrabel, in your opinion?
Right now, I don't think there's any chance it's not him. But I do think they're going to go through their first head coaching search, real search, because Mayo wasn't one, real search in over 25 years, and it would behoove you to really analyze all of these different candidates. And there might be somebody, who knows, that ends up wowing them beyond belief. Maybe you can't come to a contract with Vrabel. I'm just throwing different things out there that could happen. They have to look at everybody. They certainly do. And I know that they will in this search, which they haven't done in the past, because it is, like I mentioned, the Jaguars' job having a different perception. I think the perception of New England is very good right now. Like, a ton of money. You have a quarterback in place. Now, I would say the league, not every candidate is sold on Drake May. I would say it's almost 50-50 about candidates that think he can play and candidates that are not sold. And so it's not a slam dunk at the quarterback spot that you have the quarterback in play, maybe like everybody says it is. But there's a lot to like, and you would assume, which is in your favor if you're a candidate. Oftentimes when the ownership shows no patience, the following guy gets added patience because you don't do it back to back. So to me, I'd be like, I'm coming in after the one and done guy. Like, I get a little bit more patience. But I do think it really just is squaring up to see that it's, you take a look at everything, but it looks like it's Mike's job. And he's the best candidate on the market right now. And I don't think it's honestly really all that close.
Last thing I'll ask you, a two-part question here. It has to do with quarterbacks, and then we'll let you run. James Palmer, appreciate you making some time for us on what's a very busy day for you. Aaron Rodgers, what happens with him? And then Sam Darnold, after what we saw last night. I know he can still redeem himself in the postseason, but do the Vikings let him go elsewhere this offseason?
Yeah, I'll start with Aaron, but I will say this really quickly. If anybody heard Sean Payton today, he's asked about Vance Joseph, his defensive coordinator, getting some looks, and I know VJ wants another job, but he brought up Aaron Glenn on his own, talking about Sam Darnold, and he goes, Aaron Glenn doesn't need to say anything to any owner or any general manager. His resume on his head coaching opportunity was 3 hours against Sam Darnold and that Vikings offense.
Hello, Jets and Saints is what I'll be saying after that game, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's very accurate for sure. And so with Aaron, I think there's a couple things that play. One, the way he played in the last week of the season, I think plays a factor in him going, I think I can still play. I know he's going to evaluate all of this. The lack of quarterbacks in the draft that are coming out, the lack of quality free agent quarterbacks, who's to say a place like Cleveland doesn't take a flyer as a gap start for Aaron Rodgers? Or Pittsburgh, or I think Russ goes back to Pittsburgh, but I'm just throwing different teams out there because Aaron has shown us that at this point in his life and his career, asking for every dollar is not what he's going to do. Like, he wants to go play. I don't think it's like, I don't think he really cares if he plays another year, what it's for compensation wise. So I could see somebody taking a chance on him, just going, what if it works out? What if another year removed from the Achilles, he's just a little bit better, and we saw some flashes in the back end of the season. Why couldn't we use him as a bridge? So I do think if he decides to play, there's a market. I guess that's the point. He has to decide to play. That's the first part. And then with Sam, I talked to another GM and just asked him about this past weekend, and he was just like, you got to sign him. Like, you franchise tag him, that's almost an insult considering the way the locker room loves him and the locker room has been receptive to him. I think you almost have to sign him. There's no, like, you've got a big enough sample size of success. Now, this was before Sunday night, but you have a big enough sample size of success. And the other part that I think plays into it is Sam's just 27. And the other part that I don't think anybody's talking about is JJ McCarthy's just 21 years old right now. Like, the guy who's behind him is not like Michael Penix's age. He's not Bo Nix's age. He's not up there where you're going, well, are we wasting this away? I mean, they're both relatively young. I think that plays in their favor. I don't see Sam going anywhere. I don't see them letting him go anywhere. And I do think this is a little card in the back pocket of KOC, knowing that his contract is up for negotiation this offseason as well, to where he has probably a little more leverage to do what he wants at the quarterback spot.
You can check him out, Bleacher Report, also Underdog Fantasy. He is James Palmer. Follow him on Twitter at James Palmer TV. James, appreciate it.
Appreciate it, buddy. Go Bucks.
You got it. There we go. James Palmer ended the interview like he's a college football coach all of a sudden. How they would do, go Bucks right at the end. There you go. I'll probably clip that and put it out on social media, me saying go Bucks for him. But the great James Palmer, always appreciate his time and his insight. Well, come on back. Let's react to a little bit what he had to say. Rodgers to the Browns, Sam Darnold's future, and also it seems like Ben Johnson, who we all thought was potentially, a lot of us thought was potentially going to the Jaguars. The Trent Baalke thing could complicate that. We'll get to that on the other side. Update time first. Here is Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, there have been a total of 5 coaching changes in the NFL and counting, but only one so far today. And that was Doug Peterson, who was let go by the Jaguars, who pulled the plug after 3 seasons in which he went 22-29. The playoffs and a division title in the first season, but he never did replicate that, and the bottom fell out this year when they went 4-13. The Bengals have let go defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo after 6 seasons. At one point, he was a very hot name in the coaching carousel. The Giants are retaining both GM Joe Schoen and head coach Brian Daboll after a putrid 3-14 season. The Bears have asked permission to talk with Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy. They're also interested in speaking with Brian Flores and Arthur Smith, who are also on the Jets' radar. The Packers will have to play the postseason and perhaps the start of next year without Christian Watson, who suffered a torn ACL as well as additional damage to his knee. Green Bay will meet Philadelphia on Sunday. The good news is Jordan Love is okay. However, the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, is still in concussion protocol. And Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson had a setback in his recovery from a torn Achilles. He may need additional surgery. More will be known in the next couple of days, but at the very least, his recovery period has been extended. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, like us on Facebook. Our handle is INF Sportsnet. That's INF Sportsnet for our Facebook page. This is the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God.
Dude, I saw something earlier today that I was kind of mortified by. So, this has nothing to do with sports. I was visiting my parents this past weekend. I had a doctor's appointment this Monday, but J.J. Redick said his resting heart rate was 44. I think in that whole rant, my resting heart rate is 46. So, very good resting heart rate. A little slow, but it's because the doctor says, I work out a lot, and because I do the elliptical like an hour a day, I have the heartbeat beat of a long-distance runner. So, whatever. I'm good, though. So, I'll use that eventually. When people annoy me, I'll do my J.J. Redick douchiness kind of rant. I'll be like, oh, I have a resting heart rate of 46. And after hearing that comment, I still have a resting heart rate of 46. So I'd take the LARR into work today, Long Island Railroad. And as someone that has to frequently ride the subway in New York City, the Long Island Railroad, you would think, is pretty much the Fontainebleau, and the subway is the worst motel that you could imagine. I saw something on the Long Island Railroad today that was absolutely disgusting. So I get on the train, and I sit down, and the guy next to me is wearing a mask, whatever you want to wear a mask. Not my business to tell you to wear a mask, not wear a mask, whatever. Yeah, everyone can do whatever they want. But then I'm sitting there, and that same guy, I start to hear a loud clipping noise. He starts clipping his fingernails and eventually his toenails. Now, you're worried about, the germs and whatever. You're wearing the mask. But there you are, clipping your fingernails. And I thought it was only going to be his fingernails. And then I eventually saw that he was clipping his toenails later on. So then I got up after the fingernails and left. But then someone told me that was on the train that there was a guy clipping his toenails. So I just assumed that it was the same cat. That's disgusting. I don't care if you're the busiest person in the world. Clip your nails at home. That's disgusting. So that was gross. That was a subway moment on the Long Island Railroad today, Stu. And I guess you can't be surprised.
Can't be surprised, but like you said, it's we see a lot worse stuff on the New York City subways.
Yeah, it's gross.
And that's for any train or bus or anything, that's pretty terrible. That's up there for me.
Yeah, I'll still take the subway, but I'm at a point where I don't want to take the subway anymore. Like, if you tell me go walk home in the 10-degree snowy weather today or take the subway, I'd rather walk home on the 30 minutes than go on the subway, and God knows what happens in the 5 minutes that I'm actually on the subway. Anyway, it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Jim in Buffalo says, Zach, out of all the wild card teams, the teams that are playing on wild card weekend, who do you think has the best chance to get to the Super Bowl out of the AFC and the NFC if it cannot be the Lions and the Chiefs? You can submit a question by tweeting at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts, where all your car care needs get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Texans, Chargers, Ravens, Steelers, Bills, Broncos, Rams, Vikings, Buccaneers, Commanders, Eagles, Packers. I hate to be lame, but I'll be lame here. It's the 2 seeds. It's the Bills and it's the Eagles. If you tell me the 1 seeds can't go there, I go with the Buffalo Bills. I go with the Philadelphia Eagles. All righty. Reacting to what James Palmer had to say. So he was throwing out some teams where he thinks Rodgers, there's a chance he's going to be back. And then he thinks that Russell Wilson's going to be back with the Steelers, so he threw the Steelers out there, and then he quickly took it back. The Browns? Now, I know that you have Deshaun Watson with the setback. Who even knows if he's going to be on the roster next year? But can you imagine if you go into a quarterback room in the offseason, Stu, with Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson as your 2 quarterbacks? Now, like, the Browns have a good roster. They just don't have a quarterback. But isn't that what the Jets just did? The Jets have a good roster. They don't have a quarterback. Rodgers goes there, gets hurt the first year, plays a few good games this year, and it still wasn't good enough. How sad would that be if you see Aaron Rodgers, right, go from Green Bay, where he had it made, to then a bleep show with the Jets, and then you follow it up with a bleep show in Cleveland? I'm sorry. Aaron Rodgers, if your option is to go to Cleveland or retire, and I'm someone that's like, I say, here we go, Brownies, here we go. Right? I'm not anti-Cleveland. But do you really want to go play another year in Cleveland after just playing a year in New York and it was with the stinking Jets? To me, either you're back with the Jets next year or you should retire. Outside of that, I don't think there's a great option out there. You know, Tennessee, Cleveland. Like, what? You go to Pittsburgh, okay, fine. But I don't think the Steelers are bringing in Aaron Rodgers. You know, you want to tell me the 49ers are interested in you? I don't think they'll do so. But fine. But if you can't go to Pittsburgh or if you can't go to the 49ers, there's not a spot out there. And I read something today. I was talking about maybe Rodgers goes to the Raiders and it's like, we'll do a trade back, Stu. Devontae Adams will go back to the Raiders. 2 years ago, I think you'd be in for that, Stu. But now you don't want Aaron Rodgers?
No, not anymore.
You'd rather just be terrible and hope that your team doesn't win some games at the end of the year and then you get a quarterback.
Arch Manning.
Oh, you're already on the Arch Manning trade.
Have to be.
That'd be fun. Arch Manning in Las Vegas with Tom Brady owning that team.
Yeah. A whole nother year of me rooting against my team, though. That's the problem.
Well, it's better than taking like Jalen Milroe right now. I agree. Or Carson Beck or whoever it may be.
But for Rodgers, why the Browns and Titans wouldn't make sense because those are 2 teams you would think are maybe possibly going to take quarterbacks with those top 2 picks. Are you really going to draft a quarterback and bring in Rodgers to mentor? Like, he doesn't want to do that.
No, but maybe you don't love the quarterbacks, and you could trade the pick, and you could move back a few spots. The Giants come up, you still get a really good player. Something like that. If you don't love the quarterbacks in the scouting process. So that's where we're at on that one. And do you think Darnold's now back with the Vikings or not? After what we saw on Sunday.
I still think he is. I think McCarthy's the one-day trade.
I don't think they'll trade McCarthy. I don't. I think McCarthy's going to be there either way next year. It just is Sam on a long-term deal and they trade him down the road or then trade McCarthy down the road, or is he on a franchise tag? That's what I think should happen. My gut still tells me, and my gut could be right sometimes and my gut could be wrong sometimes, but I'm more of a trust the gut kind of guy. I feel as if Darnold's out at the end of the year. Now, I think it'd be smart to franchise tag him and see at least get something back, but I don't think he's starting for the Minnesota Vikings next year, and I do think it's J.J. McCarthy. All righty, that will do it for the show today. Tomorrow we'll see if we get any answers. What are the Raiders going to say anything? I know it's only 2:53 out in Vegas right now, but are they going to say anything? And McCarthy, we'll see if the Cowboys end up responding to this report. I think Jerry Jones' interview tomorrow with 105.3 The Fan. It's tough to keep track when Jerry's on that station. He's on that station every single day. But I think he does have an interview tomorrow with 105.3 The Fan, I heard. So we'll see how he responds to the Bears reaching out to try to interview Mike McCarthy. So that's what we have right there. So that's what we're monitoring. Raiders and the Cowboys. And what will happen with Mike McCarthy and what's going to happen with Antonio Pierce. I didn't even think McCarthy was not going to be back. For like most of the season I did in the last month to have it. Now, I think James Palmer's right. McCarthy has to evaluate if he wants to be back at the Cowboys, not if the Cowboys want him back. I do believe that's a big question as well. All right, we'll talk tomorrow, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you listening. If you tuned into one of your local affiliates and we weren't on there today with some of the scheduling changes, that happens to start the new year. There's always many ways to consume us. SiriusXM, YouTube, and then also you could always stream us on the free Odyssey app. So that's always ways to listen to us if you tuned on the radio today and you're like, Zach's not on the normal station that he's on. A lot of affiliates that just make stupid decisions, but nothing we can do about that. All right, everyone, have a good night. Bye-bye.